And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached into heaven, and Elohim hath remembered her plagues.
Well, tonight we have special guest Ken Dost joining us, and I don't know if he's on the call yet, but Ken Dost has got quite a history of unraveling the functions of the birth certificate and the legal name and uncovering a lot of fraud through copyright and patenting procedures.
The recording has started.
All right. So he'll be joining us tonight, and he is a great teacher and very knowledgeable in many, many areas. And then we have Justice Johnson on the line with us, too, who has taken great measures to correct his status and knows a great deal about different processes. And he's going to share with us tonight, too. So who started the recording? Oh, that must have been you, huh? Marshall Cote?
No, it's we're still waiting for Schubert. I spoke with him about 10 or 15 minutes ago. He was still on his way home.
Okay, all right. The recording started, so somebody's doing something. It sounds like.
This is Marshall Schubert. Just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
Oh, great. I'm going to go ahead and yield to you if you're ready to give a spill, Marshall Schubert, and then we can get started. I'll be waiting for Ken Dost to let me know that he's on. And
No, this is yours. I'm just a moderator.
oh, well, I'm new at this, so you're supposed to cover me here, man.
Just kind of follow along what you did last week. Just kind of get things going, tell the reasons for what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Right.
I thought you did an excellent job.
Well, thank you. It's like I said, it's new, and I'm open to constructive criticism, you guys. Okay, so tonight, or this call, is Exiting Babylon, and we're covering status correction and the many things that have been tried to correct status and what all many people have done, what we continue to do as we work through this process of exiting Babylon. And so we've been talking about the DS-11 quite a bit because that has come back as something quite positive. And Justice Johnson, what has been your experience with the passport, if you don't mind?
My experience with the passport, they've refused me 3 times. That's what my experience is. My last effort was to appeal the whole decision to the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs and Passport Services, Harry S. Truman Bill on D.C., and that was back in November. Tacit acquiescence usually means they agree with my situation. However, they have not fulfilled my request for the book and card and the open application that's still on Denver of round 2. So they basically have ignored the whole situation, including the authenticated code that I sent. First sent them on the 3rd application, and then sent a certified copy of the recorded version to DC on that. So at this point, they are in extreme disagreement, and they're using the excuse that my picture identification is not sufficient.
Wow.
I got rid of the driver license in 2011. I have never had a state of corporation picture, just the ID itself, Colorado-wise, nor Nebraska. And they just simply have come to the conclusion, and the only thing I'm praying for is that Yahweh punches in and punches them out and says, issue him this level of credentials now, whatever now is. But that's my experience with it at this moment. I have the distinct impression with some things that if you get it done correct the first, which means you have your authenticated code, you have a proper. The one thing I didn't do was take a actual copy of my picture ID that scanned it in, all that neat stuff, and put it in the public record. I hadn't actually done that as a notification to the public that this is a proper and lawful legal ID for Gregory Allen Johnson, all lowercase, due to capitis diminutio minimus, which predates English. Nobody on this call wants to be a proper noun. I found that out last year from Anna von Reitz and a couple other folks who had studied the glossa and the dog Latin and all that stuff. But if you do decide to do a privately issued picture ID, which means you're basically making yourself your whatever you're doing to authenticate it either by witnesses or notary, and I did both. And you probably want to put that in the public record and show that, here's a date on the recording. Nobody's rebutted it. And they're going to probably try and say, well, we didn't know it was there. How's that my problem? It's a public record. It's there. Deal with it. Any of that, I probably should have done that as a final nail in the coffin. However, it is what it is. Anyway, there's not much more I can say with that as far as the passport stuff. I do recommend doing the DS-11 with the zeros as the Social Security number. You may want to try general delivery for a permanent address or a permanent mailing location, forgive me, and the other stuff on there that takes you out of the informational flow of the corporation. And with that, I give you back the call.
Well, thank you. How interesting. So when you did your passport application, the DS-11, did you do it the way that it was, there was an example in exiting the matrix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 7.
On the whole, yes. There were probably a couple, 3 details that I did not follow specifically right now. That's been several months ago. I don't remember the exact specifics. There was one guy who got his 5-star card, and he listed his occupation as managing his trust. I thought, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I can see where that could be something to do occasionally.
Right.
And he had done that on a call with Brian Parker several weeks ago. That's been last year. And that's what I used in my 3rd round application. It didn't matter one way or the other. My ID was insufficient. They used it as an excuse. The first response I got from the Portsmouth, New Hampshire card processing agency was that, I did not send them a valid ID. Well, it was valid for me. It's not supposed to be valid for them. It's supposed to be valid for me, not them. Apparently that wasn't clear to them at that point, and I wrote them a letter back saying, hey, this is valid for me. It's notarized. It's witnessed. What more do you need? And they also didn't like the fact that I used those zeros. Apparently you didn't write in your Social Security number correctly. That's presuming that I, the living man, had one. And keep in mind, folks, any picture ID you've got, unless you make it yourself or have someone privately help you out with it, if it's issued by a state corporation, it's identifying the trust, not the living man or woman. Nothing in their world of Admiralty, Maritime, Vatican manure identifies a living man or woman, because that's not their objective. The birth certificate, according to Kirk Hallenbeck's research, doesn't identify the living man or woman. It identifies the afterbirth, and I see the logic in that. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these picture IDs from the corporation, because they're not trying to identify you. They're trying to identify the straw and make you that entity. With that, I yield the floor.
May I jump in?
Sure. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Ken Dost.
Oh,
How are you doing?
good.
Good. I'm listening to some of the conversation that's going on, and let me give you some input on what I'm doing here, what I found out, and I don't know how many people, if anybody on this call knows who I am or what I've done, what I'm doing. I've gone from this. I've spent 10 years on this from a intellectual property point of view. I've came into this back at after the crash of the economy, 25 years in the business of architecture, and was basically just lost my career, of course, with the crash, and for some reason decided to take up research into mortgage fraud. And the path I took was down patents, and that's the initial path I went down, was patents. And after many, many years of this, I've pretty much unwound this whole menagerie, grand delusion that they have put past us. And what I'm doing now, what I've determined, and what I'm going through paperwork with right now, and I should know in the next week or so, is that this is all commerce, and that this all has to do with intentional trespass on a copyright. The one thing that people have missed in all this all these constitutional issues and 14th Amendment issues and all these other issues is nobody has taken notice of the 1790 copyright statutes at large. And I came across this probably around a year ago. This is 9 years into my research. And that, to me, was the missing piece that put everything together. That 1790 copyright is our cess decay. That's our cess decay. And if you read it, it's a 2-page document, and it's very much alive today. If you read it, what it says is that maps, periodicals, and surveys are held in proprietary oversight, basically, by the government. And should the living man come forward, everything will be vested with that living man. And in the event that profits, revenues, enrichment has occurred without that living man's written permission, then the damages are 3 times the amount. So what we have here, in terms of mortgages, we have this organization known as MERS. I'm sure many of you are familiar with MERS, Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems. Well, what they did, what Fannie and Freddie did, when we sat down and we executed these so-called mortgage loans, we were not disclosed of one very simple fact, which is the crux to everything that we're dealing with, and that's a little simple R, a little simple circle R, which represents MERS as a registered trademark. Now, if you go to the United States Patent and Trademarks Office and to the website, and you do a search on Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems Inc., you'll come up with the MERS trademark. Underneath that trademark is an agreement between MERS and Nations Bank. And that's what we're dealing with here. This agreement is a bi-proxy agreement in which we, you and I, without knowledge, without disclosure, without representation, purely incorporated by reference, are agreeing to allow them exclusive licensing rights to our identity under the Commonwealth of the laws of the state of Virginia. Now, as many of you probably know, a Commonwealth is a beeline into Admiralty Maritime straight over to England, number one. Number two, it is also the state. It also allows the states to take cognizance of federal law, and that's a big thing. So basically, what over 100 million people did when we executed these so-called alleged mortgage loan agreements was that we gave up our identity, and we literally, quite literally, signed an agreement for involuntary servitude to act as an accommodating party for federal public money. So. To make it short, to just briefly state where I'm at with this, I have filed into fiscal services because this is an issue in commerce. I'm a very good friend of Anna's. I've known Anna for a long time. I've been up to her place a couple of times. I've been at a summit in Alaska twice. As a matter of fact, she's going to come down here and visit me in the next couple of weeks. And we had a very nice conversation the other night. And she admits that she may have gone too much on the Vatican. I don't think the Vatican owns everything, and I don't give a damn if they do own everything. They don't. This isn't 1666. This isn't 1933. This is the 21st century. And a lot of people have come up onto this thing with how to put it nicely, with outdated accounts and remedies, without taking into account what happened and what has occurred in the last 20 years, which is all based on intellectual property and based on UCC 9. And UCC 9, as revised Article 9 of pertaining to secure transactions, under which is copyrights, trademarks, and patents. So what they were allowed to do with this was they were allowed to, you know about the fractionalized banking system. Well, what they were able to do with the UCC 9 now was they were able to fractionalize us. So we've got many different slices of us in many different locations. Now what they did was they did it by, there's no such thing as a present day sale. Everything is kicked down the road to the future. So that means that everything is a lease. Okay, so that's what all these mortgage loans were. They were all. What we did was when we signed it, they took our financial asset that we legally had ownership of, and it was perfectly set up that way, and they sold it into the market at full amortized value, and they pocketed all the profits. Now, not only did they do this once, they did it several times over. Not only did they do that, they sold us into unborn livestock held in the stockyard. They sold us as preferred shares held in port. They sold us on rolling stockyards, on all these other things that go back to the Federal Reserve Act. But more so, what they've also did was it allowed them to fractionalize us and sell us, kind of create a bunch of, like 1,000 mini U's. Okay, now we all know about everything maritime. We know about the sea, but we got two different seas we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the sea of the sea, but what we forget to take into account is we're dealing with the sea of the cloud, the internet. The internet is stateless. There's no regulations. There's no borders on the internet. And every time they take us through an exchange, we are taken through a portal. Okay, so by and large we are stateless people. So what they've done here is they have found a way to conduct business practices that are not in the ordinary course of business, which is per UCC 9 a violation of our rights, of our First Amendment rights, of our equal protection and due process, by them not disclosing that to us. So what they've done is they've orchestrated, and this is through the Federal Reserve, they've orchestrated a nice little charade that hinges on the fact that everything is ordinary course. And as long as they maintain that ordinary course position, everything's hunky-dory. Well, of course, everything's not hunky-dory, because you've got people getting hauled into a court with these foreclosure actions, and we're sitting there scratching our heads thinking, are you serious? You're seriously going to tell me, you little puke-ass attorney, that this is a UCC 3 negotiable instrument, even though I can lay down patents to show that you're lying through your teeth? And, of course, they get the summary judgment. And the reason for this is because we are under international amity maritime, and the courts are functioning in an administrative process. More importantly, the judges are acting as an administrator of royalties, of copyright. So what they're doing, all these little fractionalized pieces out there, all the time that they've sold us time and time again, is when the judge rules a summary judgment, he basically is administering to those royalties. That's number one. Number two, what they're doing behind your back, well, first of all, what they're doing is they're finding that you're financially incapacitated and thus legally dead. And then what they're doing behind your back, some little puke-ass bar attorney is filing with filings with the probate court for an abandonment of property, and they're doing it in the case of a married couple where they're excluding the putative father. So what they're doing is they're killing us off through the Uniform Acts that they have bastardized and I don't want to say fictionalized, but kind of took into the virtual world, and they're using Uniform Simultaneous Death Act to kill off a husband and wife, and therefore no husband and wife. They kill off the kid through a generation skipping trust by filing a forced abandonment of property. And what happens? People get kicked out of their house. 6 months later, they get a 1099 from the IRS, and we're like, what the hell? What's going on here? We can explain all that. I can explain what's going on. I understand what's going on because I've studied all this stuff. I studied the patents. I've studied the trademarks. I know how they work. I know the copyrights work. So what I'm doing and what I've done is I have filed through Fiscal Services. I've appointed them as lead fiduciary alongside the IRS and the Treasury. I don't deal with these issues that your one guest was speaking about with the DS-11. It's unnecessary. All those issues are unnecessary. The federal government is not the bad guy here. The federal government is our friend if we make the conversion properly. We got to put ourselves back in the land, as Anna would say. And so what I've done here, I think I've done pretty successfully, and we'll find out this week. And even if there may be a couple bumps in the road, but that's okay, though, because Fiscal Services, if you spend any time on their website, they're there to help us, guys. They're there to help us. And I want to put to death some misconceptions about what the birth certificate actually is. The birth certificate is not debtor bonds. They're savings bonds. There are 10 savings bonds that were issued at our birth that we were supposed to collect at our 18th birthday that we never collected. They're savings bonds is what they are. So what I've done is I've issued a cover letter to Fiscal Services. I said I made Cheryl Morrow the lead fiduciary, and I signed my birth certificate and put that in there. I did not put my authentications in there because I don't need it. Because think about what we're doing here. Everything that we're doing here, what are we trying to say here? We're trying to say that we're self-governing, right? We're trying to say that we're putting ourselves back in the land. Why are we asking permission for this? Why are we asking permission of the state to recognize a picture ID and tie it to us? Why are we doing stuff like that? We don't have to do stuff like that. All we got to do is make the claim through Fiscal Services that, hey, I am the natural person. I am the living man. I am rebutting any status or any presumption, any preconception, any incorporation by reference that I am an accommodating party. I am the transmitting utility. And as the transmitting utility, I demand respectfully that I get that the Treasury reissues the birth bonds, the birth savings bonds that were issued at my birth, and that they either liquidate to my account or that or get reinvested whatever account I want to. Number one. Number two, I am firing MERS. I fired him. I said that I am MERS. I am the borrower. I'm not the borrower here. I'm the lender. What you did was you took my financial asset that you intentionally concealed behind this mortgage. It's not a mortgage. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what a mortgage really is. A mortgage is really derived out of copyright. A mortgage is a copyright. That's exactly what it is. So what they've done here is they have taken it to MERS and put a cloud on title, an electronic cloud on title. And I don't know, I'm sure I'm sure you've all heard the stories, or maybe you've gone through it yourself, where you've won in foreclosure case, and then 6 months down the road, somebody else is suing you. Well, the reason for that is because they have a cloud on copyright. Now, what I did with Fiscal Services is I claimed my common law copyright, and I filed a statement that's a notice of termination. As I said, I fired MERS, and with an order to transfer title and to termination of all licenses. Now, under copyright law, and this is by operation of law, by the operation of law, if licenses are terminated, the title of the copyright automatically, by operation of law, transfers back to the claimed owner of copyright, which is me. Okay, so what I did was I fired MERS, and with that termination, I respectfully ordered, Treasury to garner and marshal all assets for my proper administration with the assistance of Fiscal Services, whether through trust or through an establishment of a private bank. Number one, and number two, that I order the IRS to go after and retrieve the monies, reaching my assets, number one, and retrieve the monies that have been that have been stolen, that have been hidden from the IRS and taken out of this country through unlawful status corrections and status changes that I was not aware of, that were orchestrated by the bar, through the Secretary of State, through Department of Corporations, in establishing of corporations and LLCs, that runs parallel with the issues of citizenship and nationality through the electronic visa status program of DHS, which totally eliminates the DS-11. You don't have to do it at all. You don't have to do that thing at all. And so I've ordered the IRS to go after those monies, and I put them in charge of it. Why? Because I put myself back on the land. Because we want to be, the federal government's not bad, okay? They're not bad. They're there to help us if we come in properly positioned. It's the states that are screwing us. And the states are screwing us because of this MERS agreement, of this notion, this presumption that we're an accommodating party. So, you know, you go back and we talk about claiming a living person and claiming you're alive. Yeah, that's kind of right, but we got to update that a little bit. We got to update the language, and the language for that is that we're no longer an accommodating party. What we're doing when we come into fiscal services, and the reason why fiscal services is because fiscal services is the old Bureau of Public Debt, and fiscal services has the full authority of Treasury to make decisions on the part of Treasury, number one. But also number two is because all the trusts and everything are organized under fiscal services. Okay, so what you're doing now is you're coming in, you're making the claim, you're not asking permission of anybody. You're making the claim that, hey, I'm the natural man here. I'm going to sign my birth certificate. I remove all powers of attorney. I appoint myself as attorney in fact. So what I've done is I put a cushion between me and my all caps name, and I am taking charge of that. And I am no longer an accommodating party. I'm the transmitting utility. And as such, as I'm a living person on the land, you work for me now. And because we have shared ownership of a copyright, which goes back to the 1790 Copyright Act, I gladly will allow you to have profits from my copyright, and I will take certain share of that. And for that, I have the federal government and Treasury to protect me. So now, Mr. IRS man, I've got millions and millions and millions of dollars out there that have been stolen from me by using my identity through all these patented processes that I was excluded from through the MERS Nations Bank Agreement, that have been set up in separately managed accounts and trusts, which is fully described within the MERS Nations Bank Agreement. So therefore, I was never a debtor to begin with. I'm a victim of intentional trespass. And because I've been injured, and because my copyright has been damaged and harmed, and because the federal government has a right to have part of that copyright, you've been damaged. So go after them. Go get them. So those are the things that I'm working on. And I think that these are all things that are based on commerce. These are all things that are based on fact. I can defend anything that I say by laying out patents. I can show you the patents. I can show you the exact patents for MERS, how MERS is set up under Sharia law. I submitted this to fiscal services. And what I did with my filings also, I submitted a couple patents, like I said. I appointed Cheryl Morrow, as I said, the lead fiduciary, and of course Raul Maldonado and Steve Munchin as co-fiduciaries. But I also gave complete notice to the Senate Chairman of Appropriations Committee and also the House Appropriations Committee, the Governor of the State of Oregon, Senator Merkley of Oregon, House Representative Suzanne Bonamici of Oregon, and of course the state representatives, as well as filing notice with every single department head of fiscal services. So what I've essentially done is I've called a quorum of fiscal services, and to direct them and order them how to handle my accounts and how to and what my position is here. That's where I think we need to go with these things, and it's a lot different than what you guys are talking about, but it's on sound facts. And the problem I think that we've lost sight of is that we're going back to the archaic ideas and not taking into consideration what the hell happened between 1998 and 2002, which was really the staging of a coup d'etat. And that's literally what happened. We have that MERS agreement is an investment contract. Okay, that's an investment contract for our benefits. Okay, it was for our benefit so that we can grow our future, so that we can grow our wealth. And they took it from us. Not only did they take it from us, they put over this layer of deception of ordinary course business, when in fact there is no ordinary course business. I think we all pounded our heads against the wall with the state courts and realized that they're corrupt and crooked, and absolutely they are. They are. I can show you exactly how they're crooked. And it's because what's happened is these codes and statutes are and as you know, there's a difference between legal and law, and these are a set of, if I get the phrasing right on this, they are voluntary public/private system of standards and procedures that you and I were incorporated into by reference. That's kind of an oxymoron, because you've got the phrase that starts out as voluntary but ends with incorporated by reference. Of course we didn't volunteer for any of this. We were incorporated by reference. And so what we have here is we have a total deception that is all built on presumption. Now, what we've done, and I come out very hard on people on this, and I don't try to be insulting. I don't try to, and it's not my intent. But I think the mistake that we've made is we've listened to people that maybe we shouldn't have listened to, that had the right hearts and they had the right intent, but did not fully have a set of facts as to the base suggestions on. For instance, the DS-11. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. It's the wrong position to be about. We don't want to be a state national because we're under international admiralty maritime, under which a state national is seen as a belligerent. We are an American national. We are a collection of states that is supposed to be working for the common good. Well, let's look at that for a second. You've got the state of New York, who does all the clearing transactions of securities, and that's through the Bank of New York Mellon. You've got California, which handles all of the insurance end of this. You've got Commonwealth of the State of Virginia, which of course is the accommodating party end of this that we didn't know about. And then you've got the state of Delaware, which is the prince has a the principal directed trust. And then you got Massachusetts, which is the Commonwealth as well, which has issues with same issues with that we're dealing with the state of Virginia, and any other Commonwealth. So you got all these different states that acting together. They're not acting for the collective good. They're acting for the collective fraud. And that collective fraud is identity theft and more specifically intentional trespass upon our copyright. So these are the issues that we're dealing with here. And I think these are the issues that we need to focus on and we need to gear to. Fiscal services, Treasury, they're not our enemies, guys. They're not. If you spend time on their website, and your eyes will pop out of your head. You'll come to learn that we have accounts there. We have all kinds of accounts there. We just got to claim those accounts. And that's what we're failing to do. And I know people that, like Denny George, who's a very good friend of mine, he's gone through and he has done the bonds. And but at the same time, though, it's almost like there's this level of fear between these people and Treasury. It's like, well, wait a second here. You can't write a $500 billion indemnity bond and send it to Treasury, and if you don't hear from Treasury in 30 days, you will take it as being accepted under administrative law. It doesn't work that way. I mean, Treasury will tell you right when you're on a site, tell us what you want us to do, and we will do it. So what I've done here, and I think I've done a very effective job of this. Like I said, we'll find out here shortly. I think that I've kind of flipped the coin on.
If I may,
yes.
What's the website that you're talking about?
Website. I'm sorry. A fiscal service website. Go to Bureau of Fiscal Services. Look at their website. Read what they talk about. Same thing with Treasury. It's a very interesting website.
What's the address of that website?
I don't know. Just Google it. Just Google Bureau of Fiscal Services.
Thank you.
It's a very, very interesting website. I think if you spend any amount of time on there, your eyes will start popping out of your head because you start realizing it's like, wait a second here. Treasury's got all kinds of programs there to help us. They got all kinds of different things. We can go in and we could buy securities. We could transfer securities and this and that and everything. We have securities there.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Hold on a minute. I don't know what happened. Let me figure this out.
That's okay. I'll take a breath. I've been talking for a while, so if anybody got any comments or anything.
If I may,
Hold on just a second. Let me turn this.
the recording has started. If I may,
Ask your question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
2 questions.
This is. Are these questions for Ken?
Yes.
Okay. I'm on mute.
1, I would ask how you're signing the birth certificate. And the second
Okay.
thing I would ask is about how you're getting the copyright. Are you doing registered copyright or are you doing common law copyright?
Well, that's a good question because I've looked at that from 2 different ways.
Ken, Ken, hold on just a second. Ken,
Okay.
Can you hear me? We require that everybody identify themselves. Don't just give a blank statement. State who you are.
Pamela? And Pam?
No. When you're asking a question, not just randomly. When you're asking a question, just identify yourself.
Good.
And I get that.
I'm Pamela.
Goes from.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Pamela.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Can I answer?
I yield.
Okay. That's an interesting question. There's 2 different kinds. Copyright functions at 2 different levels. You got the state common law copyright, and then you have the issues of U.S. copyright. Now, the birth certificate is an unregistered copyright. It's registered within the Department of Commerce, of course. It's registered all over the place, but it's not registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. So what you've got here is they're operating on a trespassed upon unregistered copyright. Now, what I'm doing at this point in time, I've gone ahead and filed a common law copyright, but at some point in time, and I may not have to do this, depending on how fiscal services works out. And I think if I believe the way it's going to work out the way it is, I'm not going to have to do it. But I could file with U.S. Copyright Office, and I could file my declaration of status of life with U.S. Copyright Office as an authored work. They will not. U.S. Copyright does not record names or all caps names as copyrights. It has to be in an authored type of work. So what I did do is I do have an authored declaration of status in life. Now I could, and I probably will at some point in time, record that with the U.S. Copyright Office. In return, which I get a certificate. And so what I'm doing is I am filing for the world to see that Kenneth William Dost is the natural natural person, living man, transmitting utility. I'm king shit on my own, pardon my French, of my own domain, and I have all ownership of my all caps name and everything that's attached to it, all derivatives thereof. I could do it that way, and then I could file what's known as a termination of license, and I can terminate all licenses going all the way back past my parents and my grandparents. And terminate any kind of license that has been held on the copyright, and then everything else. Then I can go up to the assets, and they'll revert back to me. So that's really the way that we want to do that. However, I believe that through going through fiscal services, once we become a private private person, essentially, all public record. Any identifiers of us in public record must be removed. So the question is then at that point in time, do I want to stay private or do I want to put my copyright out there for all the world to see? I think it sticks in one half the other. I don't know which one's greater than the other, which one's better than the other. I think it depends on what you want to do. Is if you want to actively participate in commerce, then I would say yes, go ahead and do U.S. copyright. If you just wanted to sit back and buy an island and enjoy life the rest of your days, then I would say no, don't do it. But yes, common law copyright, absolutely, yes. I hope that answers your question.
Well, thank you, Ken. Did that answer your question, Pamela?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can never tell if I'm muted or not. I'm still getting the hang of this. Sorry.
You're fine. Wow, that is such a wealth of information, Ken.
Can you elaborate on the procedure, please, for the common law copyright? And can you clarify where he's filing when he's terminating the licenses and things like that? Thank you.
I've done the common law copyright. I have done through the county. The termination of licenses, because I don't want to do anything through the state and county, because the state and county is not going to recognize anything. They're crooked as can be. The only way to get recognition and properly terminate license is by formally rebutting our accommodating party and kind of putting ourselves back on the land, if you will. And that would be through fiscal services and treasury and IRS. So I filed my notice of termination and licenses when I fired MERS with fiscal services. And it's just plain. It's all plain language. I don't use any codes, no statutes. It's all common law because Treasury is the only place that I know of that's still fully and admittedly and welcomely it's still common law, and that's the best part about it.
Nice. Can you is there what procedure did you use to put yourself back on the land? That's something
I made up my own. I really did. I really did. This is going to be something that's going to bear out over the next week or so. I am very confident about it because if I made a mistake in any point, in any way, I've covered myself. A lot of people end up going to jail for doing things, and that's what keeps people fearful of doing certain things, and they should be, because I think we made a mistake by somebody throws a dart at the wall and they hit it, and the dart sticks. Everybody flocks to it, and all right, this is great. This is the great next new wonderful thing. Charge $650 for a package, and it doesn't work. And that's what scares me. That's what frightens me, and that's what hurts people. So with the administrative process, one of the things I've done, and I encourage everybody to always do this, if you do an administrative process, make sure that you put a notation there saying that, listen, I am doing this I am proceeding with the best of my ability and the best knowledge that I have, and in the event that there's anything unlawful or against legal principle, that it was not done willingly nor intentionally, and that I have a right to amend, and also that I expect and I would demand that fiscal services would assist me in this manner so that I get these processes correct. So I cover myself in that. So to answer your question, I kind of made this up as I went along on what I know and what I see through fiscal services. Now, somebody was talking about identity a little while ago, about how they won't accept a picture ID. Well, fiscal services, they have an identity form, and the form is, but it's your birth certificate and your red thumbprint, and that's what they accept. So see, what you got here is you've got. Here's what you got to do. What's our goal? What's our goal here? Our goal is to what? Be self-governing, right? To be above codes and statutes, to be left alone, and to be able to function in life and pursue of happiness. Is that not correct? Is that what we're all after?
That's what we're after.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, how do I explain this? The Federal Reserve, back when deregulation took place, Federal Reserve basically said that the banks were regulating. Okay, and the OCC came in and deregulated everything, rolled it back to the National Bank Act of 1869 or 61 or whenever it was, and then we rolled into Blackacre, two different forms of Blackacre, and we won't go into those details right now, but they rolled everything back and basically said that the banks can go ahead and do whatever they want to, as long as it was any business can operate, as long as it was connected to a national association. Well, so I thought about that. Okay, well, if I'm an American national, and I'm a state national, I'm an American national, and I go and I convert my birth bond or my accommodating party status to a transmitting utility and convert the bonds to stock, then I basically become an associate of the corporation. Wow. Associate of the corporation. Okay, so I'm an American national, I'm an associate, so I'm a national association, so I'm a private bank. And you know what? We are private banks. It's exactly what we are. And it's all laid out under the FDIC guidelines. It's exactly what we are. We're private federal banks. Our all caps name is a financial institution. It's whether we take control of it or not. So, it's what I've done is all I've done is I don't. I had people over the years say, "You got to listen to this person talk. You got to listen to that person talk," and please don't take it as being arrogant. Because it's not arrogant. It's just that I know what I'm looking for, and being from architecture, I have a pretty good mind on what I can see, and so I'm very stubborn in taking other people's advice. And when people say, "Listen to this person, listen to that person," I'll say, "No, I won't listen to anybody," and I won't because I only trust myself, and that's the way you people should all be. You should only trust yourself. You shouldn't act on what anybody else says. You need to act on your own accord, but at the same time, you need to have all the facts available to you. And unfortunately, the facts that you really need to have not been made available to you out of ignorance, out of just not knowing about them, and out of concealment. So what I've done is I just peeled back the layers on these things, and I took it from a different point of view. I mean, I've read more patents than you can imagine, and patents are not fun. They're boring. They're drab. There's nothing exciting about it except when you realize for the fact that, holy shit, they're patenting fraud. This is fabrication. They're fabricating all kinds of notes and instruments, and they're forging documents, and Bank of America is forging identities, and they're forging medallion stamps, and they're doing all this stuff. It's all provable. So what I did then is by taking those facts, I just applied them, and I said, wait a second here. I don't need somebody. You got everybody. It doesn't make sense to me. You've got an attorney that can come in on an abuse of power of attorney, and that's really what they're doing. They're abusing the power of attorney, and they're acting as intermediary between us and everybody else. And this is evident when you do you've ever done a what do you call it? Res patilla filing with the servicer. And they come back and they give you all kinds of bullshit, right? And they say, "Oh, well, we don't have to answer anything. We don't have to tell you anything." Well, they don't have to. You know why? Because there's that power of attorney that's between us and them, and we don't know that. We're not aware of that, so they can't talk to us. They're protected because there's that power of attorney that's between us and them. It's an arm's length distance. So I thought, okay, well, wait a second, that doesn't make sense then. So if I go ahead and I remove that power of attorney, then there's nobody left but me. Okay, what do I have to do to protect myself? Okay, I'll make myself attorney in fact. That works good for me. And I don't need somebody. Why do I have to go? I know a couple of people have advocated for, even Anna has, and I've come out against it, and I think she sees why, that we need to do a legal name change. No. Why would you do a legal name change? Why would you ask the court's permission to correct your certificate from the all caps down to the lowercase? Why? Why would you ask somebody for permission when you know who you are? You know you're alive. Just make the claim. If you want to be self-governing, right? What you're doing is you're self-authenticating yourself, and that's one of the things I learned about copyrights and intellectual properties, and that's what people need to understand. People really need to take the time to learn these things because it's a beautiful world out there once you understand these things. Copyrights are self-authenticating. Okay, well, if it's self-authenticating, then why the hell do I need somebody? Why do I need somebody's permission to tell me who the hell I am? I'm just going to make the claim. So that's what you're doing when you go into fiscal services. You're making the claim, and you're saying, "I'm the living man. I'm the natural person. Pinch me if you don't believe me." That's simple as that. It's as simple as that. See, what the problem that we have here is we're trying to go through all these state courts and all these state agencies. Well, the state agencies are crooked as shit. They're crooked as sin. And I can prove this. It's very easily proven, and it's proven through the Uniform Uniform Acts. If you want to get an understanding what I'm talking about, pull up the what's it called? I get this mixed up. It's either the Uniform Business Entities Act or the Uniform Corporate Entities Act. It's one of the two. And what that is, it's the playbook for the bar on how they are messing up and manipulating our status and sending us overseas and getting international electronic visas on us. And they're literally doing this. They're literally doing this. They are sending us over to Australia for two-year stints as a trader in commerce. Trader is being a TRADER, and so that they can hide us. so they can hide their revenues. So they can hide them.
And may please, King?
Pardon me?
If I may? What you're talking to about, putting us over in Australia or whatever, checks on something I was wondering. One, would you please explain how man becomes transvening in utility? Help us tie that in. And two, then since they are sending us places, would that tie in with Anna's oath of expatriation and allegiance and getting your people back? And do not do that?
No, you don't want to expatriate yourself. You don't have to expatriate yourself. You never went anywhere.
No,
you always been in the land.
She was saying that we should take our transmitting utility and our all caps, both the middle initial and the all caps, and repatriate those back to the land so they're not in Puerto Rico. Should we not do that?
No, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You didn't take it anywhere. They took it somewhere. You didn't take it. They took it. They stole your identity and they took it over to foreign sea. They took it over to foreign lands and they took it into over the waters. More importantly, they took it over the borderless internet. And made you residents and citizens of Luxembourg or Australia. We didn't do that. They did that. They did that so that they can hide all the assets and they can get all the tax shelters. And it runs parallel with what the bar is forced upon the secretaries of state, which is all these formation of corporations and the LLCs and disregarded entities and everything, as described in that Corporate Business Entities Act. No, we don't have to expatriate ourselves. All we got to do is recall ourselves. When the living man comes forward and makes his claim, all his assets revest back to him. Let them come back to us. Why should we go? Why should we have to go expatriate ourselves to repatriate ourselves back? That's not our job. That's their job. They stole it, not us.
So, right? I mean, we do that by going to fiscal services and making a claim, and then all of this stuff happens. Is that correct?
If all goes as I anticipated to go, yes, that's what will happen. That's what will happen. It's not. We're dealing with here. The one problem I have with Anna, and like I said, I know her well. She's a personal friend of mine. The one problem I have with Anna is that, and I think she admits this now, is that she doesn't understand commerce, and she doesn't understand how the copyrights work. All of this, and I'm sorry to say, but I think all this Vatican stuff and all this stuff is nonsensical. It's true to a certain degree, but it's nonsensical. The only power that anybody has over you, and understand this, and really get this through your mind, and try to understand this, the only power somebody has over you is a license on your copyright. Once you revoke that, once you sever that tie, they have nothing on you anymore. They don't have anything on you. A copyright, everything that we're dealing with here, everything has to do with copyright. Back in 1999, there was a paper written by the U.S. Copyright Office, and they castigated the bar because the bar wanted to come in and they wanted to do away with all copyrights and kind of take it into a private registry, and the U.S. Copyright said, no, you can't do that. Then people can't find out what they own or what assets they have. But it did it anyhow. You know what it's called? It's called MERS. Now, all our assets are recorded over in England through the 2005 Real Estate Registration Act. So all goes over to England. It's under the Crown copyright. Oh, okay, fine. I just revoke that. You don't have any more tie over me. Now bring the asset back, because everything reverts back to me. Because when the living man or woman comes forward, all the assets, all the trusts, all the accounts revert back to the living man, living woman. They have to do it. They have to do it, because once you put yourself in that position, the federal government has to act on your behalf. Because if they don't, it's treason, number one. And number two, the federal government has an interest in it because you're sharing the copyright with them. And, of course, we know that the federal government, when money's owed the federal government, they're going to go after and get it. Well, now what have you done? Go get it. They're the ones that took it. And I'll tell you right now, I know this for a fact. The IRS is itching. They're itching to get at these people. But we can't. But they can't. The IRS is not the bad guy here. They're really not. Just like the federal government's not the bad guy. The only reason why they're the bad guy is because we haven't recognized who we are. We don't know who we are. We haven't recognized what the power that we have of our living person, the living man. We recognize the power that there is there, and what we've done is we've made the mistake of running away from the federal government. We made a mistake by castigating the federal government. Well, does it make sense? Think about it for a second. How can you How can a person say they want nothing to do with the U.S. government, nothing to do with the U.S. citizenship, but yet at the same time make a claim that the federal government owes them money as accounts for them? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Your U.S. citizen is your all caps name, but your U.S. citizen is also your financial institution, your private bank. And you are the master account holder of that. I can tell you that for a fact. I can tell you that for 1,000% certainty because I have the forms for it. You're a bank. You're a financial institution. Make the claim. All you got to do is make the claim. Properly position yourself, make the claim, and let fiscal services assist you in this. They're not our enemy. Now, the reason why people get in trouble is because they're going in, trying to run away from the federal government, and trying to put liens on judges and doing all this. Don't do stuff like that. Don't throw liens on judges. Don't do that stuff. It's not, everybody wants to make an enemy out of the federal government. Federal government's not the enemy. The state governments are the enemy. The state governments are the enemy because the state governments are getting all the federal public money that's being filtered through by criminal bar attorneys and their uniform processes, which are all fixed. They're fixed down the line. I could show you example after example after example after example of how all these processes are fixed. And the way to get to these people, and if any of you know Denny George, I know Denny George had a conversation with IRS people, so did I, with IRS CRD. And the comment is like, it's about time you guys come in. We've been waiting for you. They're dying to get after these people. They want to get these crooks that have siphoned trillions of dollars out of this country without levy, but they can't do anything until we make the claim. Does that make sense?
If I may.
Sure.
Ken, my name is David Pruitt. I know Greg Johnson, and I don't recognize too many. My father's friends with you on Facebook. Is there a good way to get a hold of you? I'm
on Facebook. I'm under Ken Dost. Now what I'm doing, I'm working with a couple of people that we're going to be pulling off Facebook, and we're going to go onto a private web page so that the things that we're talking about here can be talked about even more freely on that web page. Because what I want to do is and this is what's necessary, is we've got to educate people. We've got to make people more sophisticated to processes that we were intentionally made ignorant of.
I agree. Do you have the name of that web page or anything like that? Because I
don't yet. I had a conversation out with it today. Tomorrow I'm going to be finally uploading all my documents, and we're going to start organizing the files into so that people can actually file. You can't file things on Facebook. I mean, obviously, there's no structure to it. So I'm going to be loading files into that. We haven't come up with a name yet, but we're probably about a week or two out on it, and then it'll be fully operational, which will be fantastic.
Awesome.
So, I mean, I just answer your question. Is just look at my Ken Dost page, and that announcement will come up very shortly.
Okay. Do you accept Facebook messages?
Yes.
I'd love to give you my contact information.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
My father's Matthew Pruitt. I'm sure you've seen some of his posts, Pruitt's Tree Resin and all that.
Sounds familiar. I also have another page. That's going to come down though because I've got Let me tell you a story. Interestingly, a friend of mine in New Mexico is in a lawsuit, foreclosure action, and I've apparently, and this is a good thing. It's a very good thing. I've apparently caught the attention of one of the biggest foreclosure attorney law firms in the country, Hauser Allison, and so I've been named in this person's lawsuit as a belligerent and as a advocate of non-compliance to traditional foreclosure processes. So that's a good thing, though. So, but in the same token, though, I got to take measures to kind of protect myself in that regard. So that's one of the decisions to start to go into a website that can be, private, and we can go ahead and I can diagram. I've done diagrams. I've done all kinds of things to help people understand, but it needs to be put into a format that is not Facebook, if you know what I mean. So that's the goal here, and it is, It's what we're looking at here. It's It's mass deception, and it's a mass deception that you can't defend a double negative, for God's sakes. And unfortunately, because of the deception, and because we were literally, and they're brilliant. I mean, they were brilliant. It's a brilliant scheme that they've done. They've brilliantly have deceived us into believing that there's a mortgage loan and that we're under ordinary course business rules, when in fact, no, the coup d'etat happened back in 2008 when Merrill Lynch intentionally crashed the economy. And I can prove this. I can easily prove this. It's not complicated to prove. So these are things that hopefully are going to start coming out now. Like I said, I've dropped the bomb on MERS with fiscal services and the appropriations committee and everything, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they react to this. In my heart of hearts, I believe that they have no idea, that many people have no idea that this MERS Nations Bank agreement exists. And if you haven't seen it before, go on my Facebook page. It's there, and read it, and your mouth will drop to what's been done to us. It is by far the biggest fraud. The idea that there's a mortgage is the biggest fraud that this world has ever seen. It's a mass deception. What has taken place here is mass slavery on a peaceful level, a coup d'etat that nobody ever saw. And they've gotten away with it because we've all, whether right or wrong, ignorance, stupidity, deception or not, whatever the reason, we've fallen in line to exactly what they've wanted us to do. And that is when they file a foreclosure action, they want us to go directly to the SEC, to the PSA, and we follow line and step in everything that they've done. And we've got to stop doing that because we're following a fabrication that doesn't exist. The whole fabrication is these bar attorneys are all young guys and gals that are fresh out of college, basically, and doing the bidding of their master. And that's their principal patent attorneys or whomever the presidents or associates of the firm are. And what's going to happen here is these bar attorneys, these foreclosure mill attorneys, are going to become the sacrificial lambs. And I don't feel sorry for one bit. I don't think you do either. But they don't know their asses from the hole in the ground either. I mean, when you begin to understand patents, and when you understand these processes that are going on, and it takes a while. It does take a while. It's not easy. It's difficult. I mean, it's the most. I remember when I first started writing, I lost my career. 25 years in architecture. When I lost that, I said, okay, what am I going to do? I'm in a small town in Oregon here. There's nothing going on. I mean, this happened in 2007, a year before the general economic collapse. And so I got hit with double whammy. I said, okay, well, what am I going to do here? You sit on a couch, become a drug addict or alcoholic, or I can do something. I got to do something. So I came across a phrase, to inure to the benefit. I don't know where I came across it. It was in some loan document or something. And I thought, wait a second, that sounds familiar to me. What is that? And it hit me because a couple of years prior to that, I had my architectural business, but my wife at the time had said, she wanted to design, we love dogs. She said, why don't you design a different dog house or something that's kind of, easy to put together and it looks pleasing and so on and so forth. So I did. And I got a patent on it, provisional patent on it. And that's where I remember that phrase from. So that's what kind of got me looking towards the patents. And that's what so that's the end that I went in on, which is completely opposite from what everybody else has gone at this on. And I remember when I first started realizing, holy shit, this is a fixed system. They fixed everything. Oh my God. And I started going through this and learning this stuff. I had a real hard time. It was a real bad depression period. I mean, really bad, because I didn't want to admit to myself that I've been lied to, that everything I thought was true is just bullshit. It's a lie. And it's not even a complicated thing that they're doing. It's very simple. Everything they're doing is they're making things up as they go along. I mean, that's all they're doing. These patents are just making shit up. That's all it is fabricating and forgery. And I had a real hard time accepting that. And it took me a long time to accept that. And even when I did, I remember walking down at the Fred Meyer's here in town, and I'm walking by all these people, and I'm thinking, my God, I know something you don't know, and it's really bad. And how am I going to tell? How do I explain this to you? So it's taken me several years to get to the point where I'm at now, to where I'm at now with this stuff. And so, I mean, I'm really committed to These are things that people have to know. You have to know this stuff. You have to, for your sake, for your kids' sake. Now, does this mean that it gets released on a mass scale? No, because I'd be killed in a heartbeat. If this was on 60 Minutes, I'd be killed in a heartbeat. Because if everybody knew all this stuff, it would be like a run in the bank. So there's a real balance to this thing here, and I've come to realize that it's the people that will walk this path, the people that have suffered, as you all have, as I have, and have strived to seek this path. And the people that obviously, I mean, the people that the sheeple, as we call them, who have not yet experienced what we have, they will. Trust me, they will. They'll be next because they're setting up the next collapse, and they've gotten everything out of us that they can. So there'll be a next group of people coming up. But the hardest thing about this is really accepting the fact that you've been lied to, and you've been lied to on a scale that you can't even possibly imagine until you see it from this side. But I promise you that if you walk this path, if you take the time to understand what we're talking about here, you're gonna come out on the other side. You're gonna be very empowered. You're gonna know who you are, and you're gonna be very self-assured on what your position in life is, and you're gonna get what you deserve and what freedom. I mean, I've come to realize that I wasn't born into freedom. Freedom comes at a price, and this is the price. But I tell you, when you after as bad as this stuff is, as blatant as it is, as evil as it is, I understand now that there's a purpose to it. There is a purpose to it. And the purpose is not evil. The evil part of it is the men that have put themselves in position to run it and to administer it. That's the evil part of it. The system itself is not that bad. It's the people that run it. So when people sit there and say, I don't want to part of the federal government's bad, I'll say, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Because what are you going to do? Here's the question. Here's the question for you. It's not about the government. It's about the people running the government, the people that are in charge, the executors. So here's the question for you. What are you going to do when you're an executor? When you walk this path and you get on the other side, what kind of an executor are you going to be? That's the measure of good and evil. Are you going to be a good executor, or are you going to be a bad executor? Are you going to screw people like what's going on with this? That's the measure of the government, of the world as it functions. It's what kind of executive you're going to be. So what we have here is unfortunately, we have a system that is run quite literally by bankers, brokers, mostly brokers, and attorneys. There's no government anymore. It's run by the 3 Bs. And so what we have now is we have a golden opportunity to change that. We have a golden opportunity to move through the doors. I call them the 3 doors of fiscal services, treasury, and IRS. And we have a golden opportunity to, one by one, go through these doors and change the world if we can. And if we have the ability. And I think we do. Because the question on the other side is, what kind of executive are you going to be? And I think we stand at a pivotal point in history here. I think that the Merged Nations Bank Agreement is an involuntary servitude agreement. It's a slavery agreement. It's the biggest evil that you could possibly imagine. But at the same time, it's also your ticket to freedom. So, anyhow, that's all I got to say.
Wow, that was that's a lot, Ken. Thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor for questions and comments. Questions or comments at this time?
May I have the floor again real quick? It's David Pruitt again.
Certainly. Go ahead, David.
I wanted to say thank you to Ken. You're connecting all these puzzle pieces, and I had like little pieces, and you're filling in all those pieces that I wasn't able to put together. So thank you so much. You know, in an empire of lies, truth becomes a revolutionary idea. Knowledge is power.
Yes.
When everyone's dumbed down. So I just wanted to say thank you again so much.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. It's my pleasure. This is for everybody. This is for everybody. I mean, we're all in this together, guys.
It's the times in which we live. That's for sure.
Well, the times are changing.
We are the creators And so
We have the transmitting utilities. Somebody asked before, explain transmitting utilities. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
But the creators, we're the transmitting utilities. We're the energy that drives everything. So we are the creators, yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's that's the absolute truth. We're the creators. Unfortunately, somehow we created this mess too. In that regard,
Well, we can't blame it all on ourselves. I mean, to some degree, it is our fault because we didn't pay attention to what was going on. We put our faith in, but we shouldn't have, unfortunately, in politicians and whatnot. But to a larger degree, this is the fault of others who have really gone out of their way to deceive us. I mean, on a massive scale. So it is our fault to a certain degree, but we shouldn't take the blame for it. I mean, we shouldn't. I mean, this is the fault of evil men, and they should be held accountable.
I would agree. I see it as a mass deceit that has gone on for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it depends on how far back you really want to go, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the things with as far as the co-ops, the agricultural, the ports, the inland waterways, that goes back a long ways, yes. But the rehypothecation, the creation of 1,000 mini U's, that's been going on just for about 20 years. I mean, it literally was a transformation of the economy. This is everything that the bad guys have wanted forever. I mean, think about it. You could, if I could just take something you sign. Well, let's put it this way. Let me give you this example. Back in the day, 20-some years ago, if you were buying a house, you had an appraiser come out to your house, right? A human being, right?
Right.
And he would walk your house and he'd do appraisal on it, right? Put a value to it, right? Okay, so he goes back to his office and he throws your $500,000 appraisal down on top of a $200,000 one, a $500,000 or $600,000 one, $1.5 million one. So you got all these stack of appraisals, right? Now, is that report worth anything? No, it's not worth anything, and there's no value to it because it's the value on a piece of paper, but it's just a report. That's all it is to determine whether you're going to what the value of your house is and what you're going to qualify for a loan and so on and so forth. But what happened in the new economy was this appraiser is very happy now because now he's a gazillionaire because he can take that appraisal report and sell it onto the market for $500,000. Not only can he do that, you got other people, anybody else who has access to your signature, has access to anything they can put a figure on a piece of paper, they can sell it into the marketplace. That's what they've done here. If you can grasp the magnitude of that, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing what they've done. Wow. It's all about valuing a piece of paper. So anything that you put your signature on, they put into the market and they sell for value.
Now, when you autograph things, okay, at this point in your life, do you put UCC 1-308 without prejudice?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And I define who I am. I define myself as, I very clearly define myself as a natural person, a sui juris, living man, attorney in fact, master account holder, holder in due course. I ordered a, where you going, Hunter? All right. My daughter, going with her boyfriend. I define who I am. I very clearly. I make clear who I am. The idea, what you're doing here, is what they've got us to do is to have done is they've got us to link together our living man, living woman with their all caps name, and that's the problem. And of course, we get a summons. We show up in court. We respond to that summons. We accept that summons. What do? We would just accept the subject matter jurisdiction. That's the problem. So what you've got to do here, and see, this is where their power of attorneys have really screwed us. Between hidden, unknown to us, they have power of attorney between our living person and our all caps name, and they're controlling that intermediary, that attorney.
You are dead. Lost at sea, dead, incompetent, ward of the state,
Yes.
And,
and that's the thing. Yeah. Well, yes. And everything. I can explain everything, and we can provide a solution for everything. Actually, for all the CPS issues, for all the private prison issues, everything. It's all money driven. It's all about private contracts and private prisons and state what's what I'm looking for state quotas. And things of that nature. So what's happened here is this value has been put on a piece of paper, and that value has been amplified for profits and gains, and everybody's lost sight of the fact that you're dealing with human beings here. You're dealing with living lives, you're dealing with children, for God's sakes. And it could be explained. And what happens now is when you take control of your, and I don't like saying this because it's not really the right way. It's not really the right way. It's not like the way it sounds. When you take control of your living person, living man, it's not really more when you take control of your transmitting utility and you revoke and rebut your accommodating party. What you've done is you've taken all control of yourself and you've put yourself above codes and statutes, and they can't touch you. And so with CPS issues, you go in, you say, give me my kid back. You have no authority over my kid. I have authority over my kid. My kid is my blood, not yours, my blood. And I'm not hurting nobody. I'm not physically hurting anybody. She hasn't, or he hasn't physically hurt anybody. No, it's not acceptable. I mean, it really is that simple. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's the fact that what we have to do is we've got to know where to do it, first of all, because you've got to, and I refer to it as a hub. Okay. Anna has said that about the Vatican. Okay. The Vatican may have been all that in a bag of chips back in 1666 or whenever. Okay. But we're in the 21st century. There's a lot of swine, greedy people, evil people that want a piece of us. And because of UCC 9 and this fractionalization of the human being into all different kinds of pieces, there's a lot of spokes. The Vatican's not the only person that's after us. There's a lot of spokes out there. There's hundreds of spokes out there. So what you've got to do, you got to think, okay, where's the hub cap at? Where's the hub? All spokes go to a hub, right? Where's that hub at? And the hub is Treasury. It's Treasury. That's the hub. They're the keeper of the books. They're the people that put the debits and credits together and pull the debits and credits together if we direct them to. If we don't direct them to, then you've got this whole set of private books, which is operated through DTC and Bank of New York Mellon and all these other exchanges out there, and there's hundreds of them. And all they see is the public side of the books. Okay, and so what we have to do is we got to go to the hub, and we got to make our claim, and we go in and we say, okay, I'm here as my whole person, as the whole man, the whole living man, the whole natural person, and I demand to be made whole. I mean, how many times after the collapse did you hear the statements? Oh, we've got to make the investors whole. Remember that?
Oh,
remember that?
I sure do remember how that worked. Yeah, my wealth was stolen.
Okay. Okay, remember that? That's what they were doing. That's what we got to do. Listen, there's no secret out there. The SEC knows that we're the equity owners. The FINRA knows that there's massive fraud. The IRS knows that there's massive identity fraud. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection knows that there's massive identity fraud. Everybody knows it. They're putting nuggets out there all over the place, but you guys aren't noticing them. You know why? Because you're focusing on this fucking deception. Pardon my French. Sorry about that. You're still focusing on deception. You got to get away from that. Stop focusing on deception and come over to where the facts are at. Because there's help for us there, all over the place. It's just that they can't do a damn thing for us until we bring forth the claim. And we're not.
If I may, this is Pamela.
Yeah.
Please address a vague recollection of somebody saying that there isn't a treasury anymore, that the treasury was eliminated and everything just goes to the IMF now. Can you address that, please? I yield.
Stop believing everything you hear, first of all. The Treasury is still very much alive and well. The Treasury is, yes, directly connected to the IMF. And the IMF does have certain control over Treasury to a certain degree. But you're in the international concept, international context at that point in time. Right now, we're dealing with a national issue, and that national issue is where we occupy on the land and what our status is upon the land, and how. And now going back to constitutional principle, well, more so not constitutional, but 1790 Copyright Act, where we fit in that position. So Treasury is still very, very much alive. Now, to address the issue of the IMF, Treasury's connection to the IMF is through, and this is through patented processes, and this is the beauty of knowing patents and understanding patents, because it's all laid out right there. I got the patents on it. How the money line, or how the money chain, if you will, goes from Treasury through to Bank of New York Mellon, through DTC, over to Cedar Bank, over to IMF, and to all points from there. And like I said, don't believe everything you hear. That's why I don't listen to people when they say, "You got to listen to this." No, I don't have to listen to that, because people are fear mongering, and there's a lot of fear mongering going out there. And that's the one beauty about understanding it and learning the things that I'm talking about is you learn to disseminate what's true and what's not. You know, the world economy's not going to collapse unless they intentionally plan to collapse it. And we're going to know if they're going to do that. Why? Because they patent everything. There's no secrets out there. Everything's patented. All we got to do is look at the patents. All the trends are there. I could tell you Bank of America is trying to sew up every last stitch that they can so that we don't get a damn thing. And so in that respect, yes, we've got to kind of act a little bit quickly. We've got to move pretty fast. But not because the world will be taken over in that point in time, there'll never be a chance of getting it back, but because we've got a golden opportunity for Bank of America to be slayed whole by Treasury and by the Department of Justice, who are sitting there waiting for us to make claims.
Nice.
So don't believe everything you hear.
Very nice. Well, that is just that's wonderful information. Anybody else out there have questions for Ken Dost?
May I?
Please.
Yeah, Ken. Hey, thank you for being on the call. This is Pam in Florida. Could you please tell us something more on the DTC?
DTC, Depository Trust Corporation, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. They got a lot of different trading programs, a lot of different avenues for trading. A lot of people have seen the I think it's GMEIL utility, and I see a lot of people freak out on that. I say, "Oh my God, I see my birth certificate is trading it's 300 different people." That's all part of the DTC. The DTC operates in Rule 144D, I think is what it's called, and that has to do with trading securities that are basically marketable securities based on what we were talking about before. A piece of paper that has a name, has an autograph and a number on it. So the DTC is restricted to certain wealth values I think it's over $5 or $10 million. That kind of restricts most people from being on DTC, except we're not going to have that problem anymore because we're going to be doing a $100 million investment bond with fiscal services, which will give us an account to DTC. So the DTC is the beeline to the international markets. The DTC is something that we definitely want to get a hold of because those are all insurance accounts, and through those insurance accounts are hidden, go up to the hidden trust accounts that are hidden into offshore accounts. So the DTC are they a bad guy? Yeah, I'd say they're a bad guy. They're kind of a launderer of stolen securities, if that answers your question.
Yeah, because I did some research into Seed and Company and the DTC and the DTCC, and it just seemed like they were closed loop circles there.
Well, the way that it operates. Let me if I may put players in position. The DTC is connected directly with Bank of New York Mellon, but your players here, you've got Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch is your mom. Merrill Lynch is MERS on mortgage. Merrill Lynch owns the patents. Let me back up for a minute. Let me say what they're after here. What this whole thing is about, it has nothing to do with real property. Okay, it has to do with the theft of your estate, of your heirs and beneficiaries. Okay, that's what they're after. So when you believe that you signed a mortgage loan, which is really a leaseback transaction, what they did was they planned for your imminent demise, meaning your imminent foreclosure. And so what they did was Merrill Lynch created separately managed accounts and trusts. Now, this is by patented process, okay? This is proven. This is easily proven. And they were valuing your life, not your physical life, although if you committed suicide or something like that, that's great and wonderful for them, because a lot of people did because of the shit that they pulled. But they were valuing your financial collapse, your financial, the day that you walked into the courtroom and the judge handed out summary judgment, they were predicting that day that you would be ruled as financially incapacitated and thus legally dead. And so at that point in time, what they have to do is they have to get you to abandon your property. And they do this behind your back, and they did this through hidden terms and concealed terms that weren't properly described through the Fannie and Freddie document because they weren't connected to that hidden Merged Nations Bank agreement. And they would force you to abandon your estate. And when they did that, you've got millions, maybe over 100 million, maybe even more over that, sitting in every one of our trust accounts, hidden trust accounts. They can't get to that. Merrill Lynch can't touch that until they get you to abandon your property, which of course they do behind your back. So Merrill Lynch is your estate guys. They're your trust and estate people. Then you've got Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is a securities administrator, and they're the master merchant account holder. So they're the holder of your master merchant account or your life account that follows you through life. So this is another trust account that's out there. Then you've got J.P. Morgan Chase. J.P. Morgan Chase, they're the traders of collateral paper. As such as no paper, everything's electronic. They're the gatherers and the holders of that collateral in terms of that. Deutsche Bank is always your custodian. They're your connection to the overseas markets through bailments and bailments and bailey letters through Wells Fargo and through UBS, and over into Credit Suisse and into those markets through U.S. border protections through trade documents. Then you've got, who am I missing here? Oh, Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is your securitization guys in oil and gas. Now, the people that, the programming that runs all this stuff, that underlies all this stuff, is a company called Mindbox. And Mindbox is a very interesting company. They're the front end and back end of business. They're trademark. They were put in place by the banks, and they're not only that, worse, they form the basis for every single government agency uses Mindbox. And Mindbox is, like I said, the front end and back end business. And so Mindbox, in one of their trademark agreements, they have renamed themselves. They kind of give themselves a pseudonym of Mindbox is Fuel, and Brightware, which is a sister company, is butane, and that's oil and gas. So Morgan Stanley is your conversion guide to oil and gas. If you recall back in after the economic collapse, remember when the fuel prices shot real high? Remember that?
Yeah.
That was Morgan Stanley that engineered that. Morgan Stanley engineered that so they could recover losses on the initial economic collapse, and they did it through the conversion of us into fuel and gas receipts so that they could recover their losses. That's as well.
Hey.
So you got different entities and different. Washington Mutual was they were the defeasance instruments. So everybody, all these banks, they're all in a cartel operating together. Merrill Lynch is the ultimate bad guy here. Merrill Lynch is the organizer, the structure, the cartel, if you will, and they hold the patents to it. Merrill Lynch is the ultimate bad guy here. Merrill Lynch is intentionally organized the collapse of the economy. Goldman Sachs did too. They all did. They all did because they all picked up on it and they all made money on it. And because we foolish youngsters, incompetents as we are, as they see us, we're not aware that there's no such thing as a mortgage loan, and that everything is they leased everything back to us, and they kept it in our name to show that we have ownership, because somebody's got to be responsible, right? Somebody's got to be the responsible party for the incompetent mistakes that we've made. And so that Merrill Lynch then can come in as mom, MERS on mortgage, and they slap us down, and they take over, and they kick us out of the estate, and they take over the estate, and they kick out our kid, they kill us off, and they kill off our kids, because Merrill Lynch because they're wealthy, because they're accomplished, because they're have experience in estates and land holdings. They're more capable of taking care of the land, having proprietary, I'll get that word out, control over the land than we are. So Merrill Lynch is the ultimate bad guy here. Merrill Lynch, as far as I'm concerned, every single one of them should be lined up, castrated, and then hung. That's what they've done. And if I had my way about it, something will be done. But understand that everything that has happened in the past 20 years, we can describe, and we can show, and we can prove, because it's all through patents, it's all through trademarks. I mean, everything, and that's the beauty of where we stand right now. That's the big secret. They're petrified of that. What's the things that politicians? What's that old joke? What do politicians and bankers fear most? An angry mob that's educated.
If I may.
Thank you.
Mr. Dost,
yes,
I really do appreciate your deep, deep digging on this beyond anything I could put into English. I would typically, probably at that point, let the Holy Ghost thank you, and you'd need translation anyway out of that. My main effort here is to make sure that I keep at least the first inner circle or the second circle of your communications and follow what you're doing, so that when the time comes, I can accomplish it myself as well, in the necessity of doing all the treasury stuff, treasury direct account and bonds and things of that nature.
Okay, no, absolutely.
I have talked to Denny George about that stuff too. My dilemma is needing more people than I've got here. I've got me here, and it's hard to do that sort of stuff with just the individual themselves.
Well,
what really does impress me about this is being the walking encyclopedia you are, because you're doing this off the top of your head. You don't have paperwork in front of you, I'm presuming, that you're staring at.
I've lived this for 10 years.
Yeah, I get that. I tend to be somewhat the same way, so I appreciate someone who's got an excellent detailed memory and can keep it filed correctly.
Thank you.
When the time comes, I'm hoping to get one-on-one with you at some point and have you assist me, or have one of those that you've walked through this assist me in doing it myself, so that I can be, because I've already corrected my status. It's just not recognized. I've already done the UCC1 and reclaimed the transmitting utility.
Okay.
Copyrighted every letter of my name in its proper form, upper, lower case, the whole kit and caboodle.
Mm-hmm.
It appears now the only thing I've got left, and I did a bond to Geithner back in 2010. My problem was I didn't have all the necessary information that you currently have done at that time 7 years ago. So I need to get arranged on that and figure out whether that bond is still a functioning instrument or not. If not, then redo it and things of that nature. In any event, I yield the floor with that situation.
And yes, that'd be a pleasure to. No, not a problem. I'd be glad to.
Fabulous. I do have you as a friend on Facebook. I will probably private message you at some point here in the not too far future when you say, it works, or if you do that as a private message or something else, or get the other page up you talked about earlier that you can't do on Facebook because you like to breathe, and I'm a bit of a fan of that myself, although I'm ready to go home anytime Yahweh wants to take me.
Yes.
He's promised me grandchildren, so he's not ready for that yet.
Well, the way that I look at this too, because I got a lot of people telling me, you better watch your back. You're going to get killed one of these days.
Yeah.
And I
agree with that to a point.
Well, see, I didn't want this shit. I didn't want to know this stuff. I didn't want nothing to do with this stuff.
Oh, yes, you did.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I really didn't. No, I didn't. When I was, and I do believe this was divine. And this, and I'm a fallen Catholic. I was born and raised Catholic, but I left a long time ago. But so I'm a believer. But at the same time, though, it's taken me a long time to realize that this is kind of divine intervention. I did not want anything to do with this. When this was thrown in my lap years ago. When this was thrown in my lap years ago, I didn't want nothing. I tried walking away from it. I did everything I could to walk away from it. And somebody kept going back, no, sit your ass back down here. You're going to learn. and I realize now that yes, this is special. This is special. Yeah. And there's this mission, if you will. I'm not saying I'm anything special. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that for some reason I've been given eyes to see and ears to hear, and that I have to follow this through. And damn it, I'm going to not get killed in the process after I go through this.
Well, trust in divine protection, and Father Yahweh will take care of that.
And that's what I believe.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to find out about it when you get that page set up, so I can get over there myself and stay in the first loop at least.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Thank you very much again, and thank you for sharing, Judge Johnson, the things that are going on there with you and the things that you've done. And this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube on Colorado Prepper. It's Exiting Babylon, Correcting Your Status, and of course, tonight is special guest Ken Dost, which we're very grateful for you joining us, Ken. And
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And if I want to put a shout out, because I know he's out there, if Herbert's out there, hello, Herbert. I know that he follows me on Facebook, and he had mentioned about this call this evening. I just wanted to say hello to Herbert if he's on.
Oh, nice. There's many, many people out there that are searching for the same answers that many of us are, and I do believe that this is a subject that there certainly will be a large audience going forward, and I don't know how many people are on the call tonight, but I know it's a subject that people want to know. This is where we are in time, or on planet Earth where we live. And this is what's going on. We need to know how to correct. And I think of it as, we're serving an AI machine, and those that we interact with in government positions or whatever are serving an AI machine. And what we're doing is correcting the information for the AI machine. Just throw that out there for you. And if anyone has any comments and questions at this point, we are coming up on, we're just past an hour and a half. So, Ken, are you willing to stay with us for a little longer here?
A few more minutes, and I got to run. Can I stick on for a few more minutes?
May I?
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, Ken, you had said something earlier. You commented you signed your birth certificate when you sent it in or something.
Yes.
Did you?
I can tell you how I signed it. Let me just find my picture of it here that I took of it, because I want to get the wording exact here. Give me 1 second here, so we could talk for a minute now until I find it here. That's one thing I don't have off the bat of my, and I want to make sure that I give it out exactly. Give me 1 minute here.
Was it an authenticated one or just?
No. I'll tell you what. Here's my feeling on the authentication. Again, it goes back to, why do I need permission for somebody to authenticate who I am? Why can't I just make the claim myself? Why can't I just make the claim myself? Why do I need to ask somebody's permission for it? And that's kind of what authentication does. But at the same time, authentication is not verifying your birth. It's simply verifying the person that verified the certificate. And to that degree, it's kind of useless too, because remember, you got a power of attorney in between that. Now, that being said, I myself have authenticated both. Through the Secretary of State of Ohio and through the federal Secretary of State, through John Kerry. So I have that pretty little, what is that, brass or copper? I don't know what they call that thing through there, but I have that. And I contemplated on, well, do I want to take us through or not? And I determined, well, no, I don't need to do that, because that kind of eliminates, that's the proper use of the word, or is a word, my self-authority. I don't need that to tell me that I'm alive. But at the same time, though, I think it's a good thing to hold in reserve in the event that something doesn't go as planned, or somebody doesn't perform as they should. I've got evidence by both the Secretary of State of Ohio and John Kerry of fraud, of misnomer. And I think that's a good thing to have at some point in time if we need it. But in terms of doing what I'm doing through fiscal services, no, I don't. I did not use the authentication. I'm just, like I said, I'm putting it in tow. And if I need it, I'll bring it up. But I don't think I will. But it makes a nice little piece of ammo down the road, if you know what I mean.
Nice. So when you sent your birth certificate to fiscal services, and you also interacted with the IRS and the Treasury, did you send the same thing to the IRS?
No. What I did, here's what I did. I sent registered mail, everything to Cheryl Morrow. I made her the commissioner, who's the commissioner of fiscal services. I made her the chief fiduciary, head fiduciary, and so she gets all the original copies of everything. I did not make, and I made notations to Maldonado and to Munchin that the keeper of the records, if you will, is Cheryl, and to see Cheryl for coordination. So they get all the originals. Now, as far as the declarations, affidavit, and notices, they got the copies of that. Now, what I did in my signatures, of course, they're all notarized, and I've got 3 witnesses to them, and I read thumbprinted, and I would encourage everybody to spend the $32.95 to get your embosser for hold in due course, and that's my seal. That's my seal. My seal is my bond. My bond is my hold in due course, and that's what I am. So every document is signed with my signature with the UCC 1308 without prejudice as my natural. Well, I'll tell you exactly how I signed it. Hold on a second. Let me find my document here. I'll tell you exactly how I signed it. Signed everything as. Kenneth-William Dost, trustee, principal secured party, master account holder in due course, in proprietary persona, sui juris, natural person, and living man. Power of attorney, in fact, UCC 1-308, without prejudice, without recourse, all rights reserved. That's how I sign everything. And I put my red thumbprint, and then I put my hold in due course stamp on it. Nobody's going to argue with me. Who's going to tell me otherwise? If the copyright is self-authenticating and I want to be self-governing, then I don't need somebody to tell me who I am, do I?
No.
And that's the premise that I go on this thing, because that's really what we're after here. If we want to be self-governing, if we want to be what we're trying to get, why do we need permission? We don't need permission. I mean, you got to do it right. I mean, obviously you got to have the proper authority to do things, and do it in the right fashion, of course, and not do it belligerently and not. But the biggest mistake is to run away from the federal government. No, you want to make that claim in the federal government. You don't want to run away from it. And so how I signed my birth certificate was up in the upper right-hand corner. One second, where is it? Okay, here it is. Up in the right-hand corner in blue ink, I put by special deposit, and then on a 45-degree angle from upper left to bottom right, I put accepted by draw E, exempt from levy by colon, Kenneth-William, colon, Dost, without prejudice. And then on the back, I flipped it over and signed a page of the order of United States Department of Treasury without recourse by Kenneth-William, colon, Dost.
Perfect.
That's it.
Wow. So,
And if I can tell you a little story here, not a story, but this is everything. Common law is alive and well in Treasury. Okay, so everything I've done is common law. Is on common law. So basically, it's on the premise that, hey, you stole my pig, and I want it back. So what I did in my documents, and I put this at the face page of every document, of all my documents that I put out. I did this analogy. If I can read this to you, it's 2 paragraphs, if you don't mind. I wrote, Own It Mortgage Solutions stole our prize horse, one that we raised and trained, housed on acreage we owned and developed. In collusion with Merrill Lynch, they marketed and pre-sold our horse for future delivery to a buyer for an advertised price at premium Triple Crown value. Not just one time, but several times over, pocketing all profits. In the interim, prior to delivery, Merrill Lynch sold breeding rights to Wells Fargo and J.P. Morgan Chase, who sold the horse's DNA to Deutsche Bank and Morgan Stanley, and on it went. While this was going on, Own It was playing 2 sides. On the one, Own It was making deals with Litton Loan and Aquin to slowly poison our horse. On the other, Own It and Bank of America were acquiring insurance policies with every insurance provider in town. Here, hold on a second. I got to go outside. My wife and my daughter are talking. Hold on a second.
Okay.
We're arguing? Oh, I thought you guys were arguing. Okay, I was ready to rip his head off. Sorry about that. my daughter pulled up with her boyfriend. It's like they're arguing, so they weren't. Sorry about that. Can I start over again on that?
Please. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Let me start over again with that because my daughter interrupted that. She wasn't arguing with her boyfriend, so that means I don't have to break his neck this time. Okay, let me start again. Own It Mortgage Solutions stole our prize horse, one that we raised and trained, housed on acreage we owned and developed. In collusion with Merrill Lynch, they marketed and pre-sold our horse for future delivery to a buyer for an advertised price at premium Triple Crown value. Not just one time, but several times over, pocketing all profits. In the interim, prior to delivery, Merrill Lynch sold breeding rights to Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase, who sold the horse's DNA to Deutsche Bank and Morgan Stanley, and on it went. While this was going on, Own It was playing 2 sides. On the one, Own It was making deals with Litton Loan and Aquin to slowly poison our horse. On the other, Aquin and Bank of America were acquiring insurance policies with every insurance provider in town, in state, in country, and as a matter of fact, in the universe, while Merrill Lynch was acquiring insurance as a hedge to cover future earnings and gambling receipts. What we have is a highly engineered and sophisticated criminal conspiracy designed to, 1, steal our horse, 2, sell it multiple times over to multiple parties at premium price, thereby pocketing mass profits and revenues. Each buyer, though, is expecting to take delivery of a prize-winning horse, not 1/10 of a dead horse spread out over 10 buyers. The criminal conspiracy covers up blatant public policy and trust violations through further unlawful criminal and engineered acts. They not only killed our horse, so in this manner no buyer takes delivery, but they pinned all blame onto us, thereby bearing all wrath and liability. Conspiring bar attorneys handle this portion. On the public side, wrongful and fraudulent claims are made against us to cover losses to buyers that their own conspiracy defrauded, while another set of bar attorneys are operating in the shadows, greasing the palms of judges and other public officials and officers. That ends with the brokers, bankers, and financial services dancing off with the rewards of their criminal and unlawful acts that are all accounts, proceeds, insurances, unlawful breedings, DNA, trusts, separate accounts. And us, we're left with a dead horse, defamed of character, legally killed off by the unlawful acts of bar attorneys, state and county actors. And the conduit by which all these reprehensible acts are carried out is mortgage electronic registration systems. When does it stop? So that analogy I put in all 27 of my mailings. So that's the first thing that Fiscal Services, Treasury, IRS, the Senate Appropriations Chair, the House Appropriations Chair, and everybody else sees. is that analogy. And I think it sums it up very well.
I think it's very, very nice. Thank you for sharing that, Ken. Your personal experience in this is very valuable. And
My pleasure.
This has affected your life and the steps that you've taken. Now you're
me. This is all of us. This is affected all. This is what's done to all of us.
Yes, yes, it has very much. And the way that you've reverse engineered this process is amazing. And I think it can be a little intimidating too. And I wonder, well, it's an overwhelming amount of information. First of all,
it is. So, it is, and it does. And that's why it's important. That's why if somebody says, "Give me the 1, 2, 3 steps to it," I won't do it because you've got to understand it first. You have to understand what you're doing. And I think you all recognize that. Yes, this. You said yourself. This is undaunting. This is overwhelming. So there is a learning curve here. But what I'm showing and what I'm saying to everybody is, there's a way out of here, out of this thing, and it's a good way. It's a real good way.
And
in the process, we get to get these sons of bitches, and we don't even have to go after and get them. The federal government will go after them for us. Or we go buy an island or go jet skiing or do something with our life and live lives.
Yeah, let's get that AI machine programmed right, because we've got to correct the records. So regardless of, how we look at it or what we tie into it, which I think, it includes the 1666 Act, the Sustakv Act.
Well, put that forward to 1790, because that Sustakv is really a 1790 Copyright Act. I'd encourage all of you to read it. It's only 2 pages.
Right.
I'd encourage all of you to read it. That 1790 Act is your copyright, is your Sustakv.
Right. So, with the valuable information that you've put forward here, and when we start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, we need to make those claims. And, I was curious, I know that you've talked about the secured party agreement and the secured party creditor and the holder in due course and indemnity bond and so forth and so on. And many of us are familiar with these documents. What I was wondering is, did you file those under your UCC one?
No. I don't think we need to do one. At least I don't think we need to do one right now. Actually, I did file it in Oregon. They refused it, and they refused it. They actually held on to it for 2 weeks until newly enacted state regulations came into place that says that you cannot mention the word straw man, you cannot mention HJR, you cannot mention all these other words that automatically eliminate you from being accepted as a UCC filing. So I got that back. I thought, you sons of bitches. Okay, fine. So what I did, and I already sent these off to, I had already sent my trust documents and all my UCC filings off to, this was a separate mailing I did, to UCC, I'm sorry, to, let me get my thoughts straight here, to the Department of Transportation Maritime Division, to Secret Service, to CID, Treasury, IRS, Treasury, IRS, CID, Treasury, CID, and a couple other addresses. So these were all previous filings I sent out prior to the Fiscal Services one. So I sent them out, and then here I get a notice from Oregon saying that they refused my UCC one. So I thought, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to go. Now people say, well, go record it in Minnesota. No, I don't want to record it in Minnesota. No, I don't want to record it anywhere else. It's got to be recorded here in Oregon. If it's not going to be recorded here in Oregon, then fine. I'm just going to put a notation. So I did that. I put a notation into my fiscal services packets, and I said, hey, the state of Oregon, they're impeding my right to conduct commerce, and they're conducting tortious interference with my inheritance. So I just want to let you know, I haven't recorded my UCC one yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But at the same time, though, I think that we don't need to, I don't think we really want to record. I think it's the way, I think it's one of 2 ways. And this kind of goes with the DBA. A lot of people say record DBA. I say that we don't need to do it unless you're going to be an active participant in trading, and you're going to be active in that. If on the other hand, you want to be like I do, like I plan on being, and my plan after this is over is I'm going to go buy an island. Literally, I'm going to go buy an island, buy myself a sailboat, and just go live life. So if you're of that vein, that type of thought, then I would say no, you don't need to record a UCC1 because you'll let Treasury handle all that, and Treasury will be your protector. And because when you go into Treasury and you go into fiscal services like that, you're essentially becoming a private person, and it is the obligation of Treasury and when you make that conversion with that birth certificate, when you sign it, it becomes the obligation to remove you from all public record. So if you are not removed from public record, then you got $500,000 per use if they don't remove it. So my thought on the UCC1 is, okay, fine. Why record a UCC1? Why? I mean, if at the end of the game here, I'm going to have a white card with unlimited full faith and credit, and if anybody steps on me, I've got the federal government, Treasury, and IRS to go after them. Why do I really need to record a UCC1? You see what the logic behind that is?
On one hand, I do. Now, I did do my UCC filings, and I look at it as a public record of where, anyone that the IRS or whoever needs to go to check, they can find my filings for the secured party creditor.
Okay, that's another word. Okay, all right, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Got to stop using that phrase. That's a wrong phrase. You've got to throw that phrase out. We're not the secured party creditor. We're the principal secured party. Big difference. Big difference. Anybody could still be a secured party creditor. No, you're a principal secured party. A principal. What's a principal? A principal is the king shit, right? He's the executor. Okay, secured party creditor is not. So I didn't mean to jump on you on that, but that's a big issue.
I appreciate that.
That's a big issue with me. We got to stop saying that's an old term. It's an old term. And here's the premise for that. And I'm sorry, I interrupted what you were saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. You're helping me a great deal.
I didn't do that, and I apologize. I'm sorry. It's not. I'm not trying to be rude.
Not at all. No, I think that's really, really good that you're bringing that forward, because we're working through, once again, processes and whatnot. And the good news is that if you've done your filings or whatever, then, now you know that probably should go back and amend that secured party creditor part.
It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to do anything that's going to really hurt you. And keep in mind also, and I think everybody needs to really keep this in mind. Remember what I talked about when I had that phrase about the administrative process, and if I do something wrong, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind that the administrative process is not perfect. The administrative process is amendable. So you can always make amendments and make changes to the administrative process. So if what I said makes you panic, don't panic, and there's no reason to panic on any of this stuff because everything's amendable.
Exactly.
Now, do you have to amend it right now? No, you don't have to amend it right now, but you may want to do that down the road. Maybe down the road you might even want to retract that UCC1. Maybe you want to add a UCC1. See, these are the options. This is the beauty of it. These are the options that are available to us through fiscal services. If you want to form yourself in a commercial standing, to where if you have businesses or whatever you want to set up underneath that, then you float on over to FDIC and you set yourself up as a bank. And you go to the OCC and you get yourself all set up as a bank and so on and so forth. Now then, in those respects, yes, you would definitely want a UCC1. But like I said, if you're going to just be a private person and want to enjoy the rest of your life and live the rest of your life, then I don't see a reason. I don't see an immediate reason to do a UCC1. But if in the event that I do need to do one, fiscal services will direct me on that because that's their job. Because I've ordered them, respectfully, to guide accordingly as the fiduciary of the man and natural person. So don't fuck up. If you do, then it's
that P term there, Mr. Dost.
Pardon me?
I said, be careful of that P term there, Mr. Dost.
The person?
No living man or woman has ever been a person.
but you are a natural person. Here's the thing. You got to remember something. Terms relative to the agency or the focus to which your eyes are drawn to.
Okay.
It's not always going to be the same.
How about Webster's?
I don't care about Webster's. I care about the agency that I'm dealing with.
Yeah,
that's what I care about. The agency that I'm dealing with is going to be the one
that's term as a corporation.
Pardon me?
I said most of them use that term as a corporation, especially the Internal Revenue Service of 26 USC 7343.
But you go into definitions of under, I think it's either fiscal service or treasury. A natural person is described as a living man or woman.
Then they would be the only franchise of the U.S. corporation that does.
That's what I'm saying. It's relevant to what you're looking at.
If I may, maybe this is where the common law does come into play on the federal level. I'm just throwing this out there because earlier we were talking about how the common law does come into play and how there are those that do follow that. And person as we know it under the common law does not mean a corporation. And so as we're learning through these processes and we learn how the English language has been bastardized and used against us, we also need to keep in mind that our comprehension of these definitions is not the same, and that it's okay that it's not the same because it's based on the common law. And so that's just my thought on that.
Well, it does depend on, and I was pretty shocked by that as well, about how the definitions vary from agency to agency or where you placing your eyes and focus. If you go into, let's talk about the Commonwealth of State of Virginia. Underneath that, do you know what a consumer is defined as? A consumer is defined as a licensee of information. Now, would you have ever guessed that?
Of course not. Of course not. That's
okay, so that's...
law.
No, but that's not. But what I'm saying though is these are definitions that see we're focusing on definitions, all kinds of definitions. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, indifferent or whatever. But the problem that we're doing here is we're focusing our attention and our eyes into the wrong places. Now, what does that mean? That means you're unaware, and now you are aware that there is a hidden agreement underneath the Fannie and Freddie document, which is, by the way, supposed to be a four-corner agreement, and it was created by mandate by Richard Nixon to be a four-corner agreement, which they blew apart when they added MERS. That notwithstanding, you're not aware, but you are now, that there's a hidden agreement, and that's between MERS Nations Bank, and that's, as we discussed earlier, was an agreement by proxy, of involuntary servitude, of incorporation by reference that basically stole their identity. And it's drawn to the Commonwealth, the laws of the state of Virginia. Well, unless you knew this, you wouldn't know to go and research the common law of the state of Virginia, laws of the state of Virginia, and you wouldn't realize that, Jesus Christ, the consumer is a licensee of information. What the hell? You wouldn't know that. So the point, I guess, what I'm trying to get at is that we are putting our eyes directed into the wrong places. And we need to put it where our eyes should be, and our eyes should be on the tasks and the agencies, the states, whatever that we're dealing with. And what I'm saying here is that we've got to put our eyes onto what's pertinent to us, and what's pertinent to us in the factual and real and truth world, not the deception world, is what I'm talking about here with this MERS Nations Bank agreement. So when I talk about natural person, yes, I agree with you about I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. Absolutely. But in the context of what we're dealing with, natural person is coupled with natural person and living man or living woman, is what I'm saying. I guess summing up.
Yes, well, thank you. I try and keep things in my own mind just in a simplistic manner because of the
digital record is? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you know what a digital record is under the state of Oregon?
No.
A digital record is being born again.
Oh, wow.
Literally, born again.
Well, somehow that doesn't surprise me.
But see, that goes to everything we're talking about here. Because so when you're talking about birth certificates and you're talking about, life and death and everything, what you're doing when you're going into fiscal services and you're making that conversion, you're being issued a digital record. You're born again.
Oh, wow.
See, you wouldn't know that. None of you would know that. None of us would know that because we're looking into the wrong places because we don't know. We didn't know. That's how damn good their deception was. We didn't know these things.
Well, they've been after it for generations, so
Oh, absolutely. They've had a lot of practice at it, and they've done a brilliant job. I mean, I'm awed. I'm absolutely awed because what they did was brilliant. It was just devastatingly evil, of course, but they didn't miss a trick. But what I'm saying though is the mistake that we made, and like I said, it's not our fault. It is to some degree, a very small degree, very, very small degree. But the bigger fault of this goes to we were duped, we were hoodwinked, and they did a damn good number on us. So all I'm saying here is, listen, guys, let's focus. If you think what I'm talking about is valuable and pertinent, and I'm telling you this is from my research and my knowledge, and this is where we need to be placing all focus to. We need to abandon certain principles that we believed to be true and that we believed should be a focus that aren't really important here. If that makes sense.
It does to me, and
And I'm not trying to insult anybody's sensibilities or anything, or anybody's research or anybody's intelligence. Don't take it that way. I'm not doing that at all. I'm not. So please don't take it that way. It's because it's not intended that way. It's kind of just like, please, this is what we're dealing with here. Please take a look at it and please give it consideration and you decide.
Absolutely. Well, there are other places to put your public notices, by the way. And after doing my search and study on the UCC, the truth is that the UCC really isn't a valid organization anymore because it was foreclosed in 2012 by the OPPT, as were all governments and corporations. And that is something that is valid and true. And for anyone,
but at the same time, though, but you got to look at that in a different way, though. Think of it this way: it wasn't foreclosed upon; it was a merger and acquisition.
By the OPPT?
Yes, everything's a merger. All these bankruptcies that took place, every single bankruptcy, Ownit's bankruptcy, New Century's bankruptcy, Lehman's bankruptcy, those were business models. They were engineered business models. They were patents. It was planned.
Oh, wow. I would
planned.
really like to see more information on that, Ken.
I could show you. I could walk you through. It would take several hours to do, but I could walk you through documents through Merrill Lynch and Lehman and every one of these other bankruptcies to show you exactly how they were rigged. They were rigged. They walked past the bankruptcy court. Own it, for instance. Own it. Appealed the judge and their bankruptcy. Said, we've got, we consolidated our, 50, 60, 70, 100 offices, whatever they had, down to 3 offices after they claimed bankruptcy. They said, I got all these boxes, floor to ceiling, of all these paper documents of loans that were not approved. May we destroy those, Your Honor? The bankruptcy judge said, yes, you may destroy those. Well, you know what they did? They destroyed all paper documents because you know what? Every single one of those loans was never approved because there never was a loan. So all the documents that we hand-filled out, they got approval from the court to destroy on the basis that they were unapproved loans. Well, guess what? There never was a mortgage loan to begin with.
So if you require, demand, or whatever, the wedding signatures...
Impossible. They're gone. They've all been destroyed and converted to digital format.
Oh my
an electronic PKI key structure,
oh my goodness.
which is unlawful too.
Yeah. So they never, ever, ever can produce the wedding signature documents, is what you're saying.
No, all paper documents were destroyed either in their bankruptcy or immediately following origination. In Ownit's case, it was destroyed during their bankruptcy. because everything's converted over to, because remember, what's ruling these things is not the Fannie and Freddie document, it's the underlying MERS agreement, which is the theft of your identity. And that theft of identity includes the conversion of your wedding signature, to a digital key, a private public digital key. So that's a whole other issue. I don't want to. Probably don't want to go down that path because I'll probably follow everybody at that point.
I will tell you, start requesting. I would suggest to anyone out there who has a contract that they're being hounded about, start requesting the wedding signature document and see what happens. These guys start getting really, really nervous. That went out to my mortgage company. No, they can't. And they sent me a boatload of information because I sent them a letter about the loan being, an invalid loan, and I needed certain things to verify. And they sent me a boatload, but one of those things was also the wedding signature of the original note. And I will tell you, they scrambled on that. And they sent out a boatload of stuff, but they did not send that.
Go on to let me think of an example here. Document systems or my mind just got a brain fart here. I can't think of any names right now. Any of these document providers, go on to one of their websites and look at what they're doing. And look at the technologies that they have. They have printing technologies to replicate handwritten signatures. They're selling forged documents, and that's what they're all about. Any of these document providers, document systems, DocMagic, the one I'm thinking of, it's going to come to mind right now, Veemer. Can't think of the name of it right now. But any one of these, look at the bottom of your Fannie and Freddie document. On the bottom of it, it'll probably say who the document provider was. Mine was Document Systems. And look, see what's there, and go on their website and look at their website. Just spend some time on their website and look at what they're in business for. They're in the business of selling and fabricating documents.
They're crooked, they're corrupt, and they are raping all of us.
Yes, and it's all based on one stupid, silly premise that keeps this thing afloat, and that is called two words: ordinary course. Ordinary course. As long as we believe, as the Federal Reserve says, as long as the public believes that you're acting in ordinary course, it's okay. Well, what have they done? Everything they've done, they've said is ordinary course, and we followed line and step with it. Well, stop fighting the fact that it's ordinary course. Damn it, it's not an ordinary course. It's patented processes, it's trademarks, it's sophisticated processes that you intentionally withheld from me, and worse, you intentionally made me ignorant to something that doesn't even exist. And see what they do.
That's very good, and this is where we are in the times that we live in. Once again, it's time to stand up for yourself and,
yes.
and start speaking out. Stop being just compliant with the situation and question what is going on and put it to them.
Right. And let's do it in the right way, though. We don't have to be angry about this. I mean, I'm angry about it. I direct all my anger towards bar attorneys because they should be hung. They did commit treason. And I do put all my anger towards the state systems because they're crooked. But I love my federal government. I do. I love my federal government. My federal government's there to protect me if I come improperly positioned. And then that can be my constitutional self, and I can be protected. I can have my feet on the ground. I can have 1 foot on my boat that I'm the captain of, and I can have 1 foot on the ground. I can do whatever I want.
That's people were meant to live free. We were never meant to live under this kind of threat and whatnot. And when people are allowed to be free and live in
that's the wrong word. That's the wrong word. Allowed. You're asking permission. Stop asking permission.
Yeah. Well, when people are able to, thank you. I'm not sure how to replace that, but when people are allowed to just be themselves, people are very beautiful and they share and they're generous by nature. They actually are very kind. We are not barbaric. We are not racist. We are not any of these things that we've been made out to be and that they try and program us to be. And
they're the ones that are the bad people, not us.
Correct. We just want to be we just want to be able to live our lives in peace, and we don't want to harm anyone.
Exactly. Exactly. That goes back to what I said earlier about the federal government's not evil and bad. It's the people that are occupying it. So the question is, what kind of an executor are you going to be? Are you going to be good or bad? That's your decision. Exactly. Nobody else.
Yes, I may.
Please.
Hey, this is Captain Gavin. Hey, I allow you to be free.
Fight me.
Thank you guys so much. I would really like to be allowed to be free now and pursue happiness, because I heard about that. However, the other day I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, okay, I want to figure out how I'm going to pursue happiness. What does that look like, right? And I'm telling you, trying to get out of this de facto system that seems to have controls.
But see, but that's the beauty of this stuff. We don't have to talk in terms like this anymore. We don't have to. I mean, if we don't have to talk in terms like this anymore. All we got to do is think of it this way. It's commerce, okay? It's commerce, and somebody stole your identity. They stole your vessel. Go back to that Grand Funk Railroad song, I'm your captain. I mean, that's everything we're dealing with is commerce. We don't have to talk about de facto or any of that stuff. All we got to do is make the claim. Who are we? Who are we?
And see, this starts making such good sense to me, because I was a business consultant for many years. And so when you say it's commerce, to me that's, oh yeah, it is business. Start looking at their stuff. I mean, you'll see that they do it biannual.
Think about it for a minute. Think about it. We have a fit that everybody's recorded. Everybody and their brother, FBI, all these agencies are recorded on Dun and Bradstreet. So what? So the government's got to function somehow. So what? So it functions. Okay, fine. Where do we fit into that? Oh shit, we're not the debtor. We're not the accommodating party. We're the private equity. We're the ones that drive this thing. Damn it, I'm an equity holder. I hold stock in this corporation. We got to learn to think that way.
I absolutely agree.
Yes, I may.
The harvesting has not been of the gold or the silver, although that has been a great part of our history, going back many thousands of years, actually. But it is the harvesting of the human energy, and that is the true value of everything, and that is what has backed the United States of America as we understand it and comprehend it.
Because if we ever went back to the gold, you never go back to gold standard again. You know why? Because there's not enough gold in the world to sustain the amount of technology and the amount of growth that we have. That's why we function that system we function on. And it's not a bad system. To be honest with you, I'm glad it's that International Amateur Maritime. Because damn it, I could be a part of it. And I could be my captain, my own vessel. Just get out! Don't tread on me. Get the hell off of my lane. Get the hell off of my space. Let me be me.
My ship, right?
Exactly. Get off my ship. Shit. Whatever.
Oh yeah, we're changing that to what is Google's the CEO Ed Schmidt, instead of shit. Now you're supposed to say Schmidt. Oh Schmidt.
Oh Schmidt. On that note, I'm gonna have to take off, guys. I gotta run. Thank you for having me on.
Ken Dost, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing so much information. I know it was an overwhelming amount for most of us out here, but the good news is this is being recorded on the Colorado Prepper YouTube channel. I'm sure we can branch it out from there, so anyone that wants to learn how to free yourself from Babylon, that's what we're doing, is we are exiting Babylon in this and coming into compliance with the natural laws and with the way that things are supposed to be. And thank you so much, Ken Dost, for all of your hard work and everything that you have done, and for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Night all.
Good night, Ken.
Night.
Peace be with you.
Well, with that, everybody, we are at 2 hours and about 20 minutes. But I'm certainly opening up the floor. Judge Johnson, do you have anything that you would like to contribute? Perhaps he's left us here. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring forward and contribute or ask questions? I know Ken is gone, but if anyone would like to bring something up, please do.
I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was very insightful.
Well, it's a great deal of information. I know that for a lot of people, it's depending on your level of awareness of things, and of course, some of us have gone back and listened to Ken Dost on other stations that have aired him, and we've obtained a great deal of information. So, personally, I find his stuff to be extremely valuable. It gives a really different perspective on how things actually work, and he's not the first one that has brought this forward. As far as, there are certain entities out there that are not our enemies. We're very gun shy, though. So we tend to steer away from anything that has to do with quote-unquote government agencies, and that's understandable, But on the other hand, when I look at it as business or programming an AI machine, it takes on a whole different complexion, and I see how that actually makes a lot of sense. Those acts and laws are in place for a reason, and going through these learning curves of comprehending how we're viewed, and now standing up for yourself and knowing who you actually are, not how you're viewed by these legal entities and so forth. That's a big, big part of the whole thing, and I think that's what a lot of what Ken is bringing forward. We are the executors. We are the beneficiaries. We are the ones who own those entities. And so, great information on this call tonight. In my opinion, I hope you all have enjoyed it, and certainly looking forward to more of these. I yield.
This is Marshall Schubert. Captain Cab, did you have questions for Marshall Swilly, or was it for Ken?
Oh, that was for Ken. That's all right. I do have another question, though. There was some information posted on the chat today about license plates and what looks like IDs. Anybody come up with any more information on that?
I would say I don't have any information on that, but that is some of the better looking license plates I have seen.
I'm hoping that, I know that there's some research going on and some reaching out to the affiants on that website. And one of the things that I noted was that the affiants were all of those documents were entered in on the same date in 2014. So I thought it was interesting that there weren't any that were more recent or that were even done on a different day.
The biggest red flag for me on those license plates was that it quoted a State Department number on the bottom of it.
Yes, that was definitely a big red flag. And I remember um, speaking with a gentleman a while back, and it sounds really, really familiar, where they have set up, um, by doing the postmaster thing, they've set up their own post office and United States of America. It might be the same one. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to really even get into all of that at the time that I heard it. I was already very involved in my own state, and it was just kind of watching them in a peripheral. They could be the same ones, and whether they're legit or not, I don't know. There was the organization that was founded kind of under Tim Turner, or Tim Turner was the president, and he was taken to prison, hauled off to prison. That seemed to be a pretty big movement, and it could be the same. I'm not certain. He was sentenced in 2000. When was he sentenced? Tim Turner, 2015.
If I may, about that, it
Please.
says U.S. Department of State. It gives a number. Is that like a registration number, or is that like what we did with our oaths?
I think it said registration. It was a registration number, which is where the red flag probably really came up, because the very term registry, is related to the British Crown.
This is Marshall Pruitt. May I have the floor real quick?
Please.
Go ahead, David.
I can tell you from personal experience and knowing a little bit about the technology. A number of people use, Pinkertons use. You can go look up the Anti-Pinkertons Act. Very interesting reading. You might all want to go check it out. You might learn something by reading that. I believe it's like 18, can't remember the exact date. But anyhow, go look it up. It'll pop right up in Google. But these Pinkertons, what they tend to use is they tend to use license plate readers. And if you put, I have a little bit of experience in this, I made my own warning signs. I don't do plates. I don't do anything like that. I do warning signs that require me as a traveler, and why would I need to go register, put anyone on notice? Because I'm traveling. I'm engaged in a protected right that was given to me by my creator. I shouldn't have to ask for that right. So I will tell you, I have personally never had problems with that. I was pulled over a few times, but I think my reputation protected me on a number of those occasions. A friend of mine also tried this and dealt with a fictitious registration case against herself. And I just recently found out that that was actually because part of the algorithm they use now is actually looking for United States codes and things like that on these signs. So if you're saying not subject to, I think it's like, I've got one of those signs somewhere around here. But anyhow, if you're using any of the U.S. code, UCC code, any of that on there, it will raise red flags. You're probably going to get messed with. I've spoken to James Trent Goodbody. There's a reason he's redesigned his also, his traveler signs that he uses, that he sells on his website and all those different things. You also want to be aware that many times the way highway patrol or state troopers in some states they're called, and local Leos set up their cameras for reading license plates is for oncoming traffic, not people in front of them. So your best bet, if you're using a traveler's sign, or some people call it a plate, I still like sign, is to actually use them only in the rear, because standard operating procedures for Pinkertons specifically states that they're supposed to get behind you to pull you over. I've only had one case in my life where they've gotten in front of me and guy lost his job over that. So it was it's kind of a well-known fact that they have to get behind you, so it does put them on notice at least. So with that, I yield. But I just thought that I'd mention you probably don't want to have one up front. They tend to send a lot of red flags with those new license plate readers they've got in the last 6-8 months. So just something to think about.
Is that the same Pinkertons that were involved in the Carnegie thing?
I'm not familiar with that. I'm talking about the Pinkerton Act, with specifically in regards to Nevada. I don't know if it. I believe it was a federal act, if I remember correctly, but it prohibits the hiring of private mercenaries. And from what I've seen, especially in Nevada, California, certain parts of the West that I've spent a lot of time in, they're nothing but Pinkertons. They'll admit that they're not subject to any code, statute, or law, and they'll admit that I've had SWAT guys admit to me they're private contractors. So that, by definition, last time I checked, it met the mercenary standard within the Pinkerton, the Anti-Pinkerton Act. Last time I checked, and the person who referred that act to me, I read it in depth with him, and he explained some things to me, and it's another thing for your toolbox. Knowledge is power.
Well, I'll tell you this, David, just to kind of chime in. The Pinkertons were the people that were a private mercenary group that put badges on. The Carnegie steel mill went into strike mode, or strike, and they weren't working, and the Pinkertons came in to get the strikers back to work and wound up killing somebody.
I'm not familiar with the events that happened. My friend Chris probably would be. But that was something I recently learned about, and it actually helped me. Calling them Pinkertons makes me feel a little bit better, because they're so unprofessional and everything. And just, I've met mercs who are more professional and have more tolerance and more. They treat their opponents with more dignity. At least they don't shoot you if you're unarmed. All the mercs I've met, they'll only shoot you if you got a gun drawn on them or one of their teammates. But with that, I mean, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole. But anyhow, I thought that it might be interesting to.
It's an interesting subject for sure.
Yeah, it's. But I specifically brought this all up because you guys are talking about traveler signs. I'm guessing, and if you put them on the front of your rig, I can almost guarantee you will have a lot more problems than if you just put one on the rear and put a winch or something up front of you, especially if you got a truck or something like that. It's not just get one of the bumpers that doesn't have the holes drilled in it or whatever for the sign or for a normal license plate to be.
What about putting one on the front that just says no trespass? I don't know.
Well, I
don't want to attract any attention.
Here's what first rule of security: don't be in places that you know you shouldn't be. Second rule of security: blend into your environment. That's why you see the best guys over in the Middle East, beards are grown over there, because that's how the locals are. Okay, they all have beards and stuff like that. That means you can dress down and you can blend into the local society. You want to blend. You're better off. I've gone without any kind of sign, and I've actually been pulled over less with no signs, but that's, of course, in the western U.S., which is a lot less populated. What I have found is you're better off without a front one. Everyone I know who's gotten messed with had a front one on, and
that was me at the same time too. I know all the times I got pulled over, it was because I had a front one on. So it's just something to be aware of. You have to be aware of your enemy's capabilities. I yield.
David, this is Captain Kevin. Does your state require a front plate?
Yes, they require front and rear, and I've never been messed with.
Good to know.
I will warn you that that you'll get people in gas stations and things like that asking you questions. The best thing I can recommend is getting some case law together, keeping print-offs of that in your automobile, and in between when you take rest, when you stop for rests or resupply or whatever, I recommend when people have questions, you say, hey, I really, I don't want to waste your time or anything, but here's a little paper on it, and include an email address or something like that they can email you at. And I've actually brought a lot of people. I found that the right to travel is a great way to get people involved in the movement. A lot of people, they don't necessarily want to go about through all the hassle and things like that, but I will tell you that it opens their eyes to a whole new thing. I've actually had a sheriff out here who I've spoken to about that, and he's actually very receptive to everything. He's a friend of the family, so the thing is you got to remember we're dealing with a huge amount of programming, and when I was doing a lot of firearms training and stuff like that, I could tell guys who had more. I could tell guys who were really good at what they did, but they had what we call training scars. And it doesn't matter how good you are, if you have what they call training scars, those are things that get you killed when you're actually in a gunfight or anything like that. And you got to remember that scars, some scars never heal. But when we're dealing with education, if people are receptive and willing to learn, then you actually can actually heal up those wounds of miseducation or things like that. I just by defining what a driver is, many times I can get people. 28 U.S. Code 3002, Section 15, I believe subsection A, yes, A, defines the U.S. as a federal corporation. I was speaking to a woman today about that, and she actually, everyone knows something's wrong, so you got to find ways to connect with each individual that you talk to who's ready and receptive, but you've got to find a way to connect with them. Some people, it's the license and insurance that ticks them off, so you got to connect with them on that. Some people, it's on the Second Amendment. They don't realize that, I can disprove every gun law in America and prove that they are obsolete by technology that has been released nowadays. So or I should say gun code or rulings by ATF that have the color of law, that aren't even color of law. They're so far beyond that. But
that's the truth.
Anyhow, if you find ways to initiate these conversations and actually have a meaningful conversation with someone, and they actually respect you, and you're not pushy about it, I found a lot of times you can get great results. Waking people up is a hard thing to do, but we all have to do our part to educate those who are willing and receptive and ready to learn.
I think embracing those opportunities as they come about is the most difficult thing, because when we're faced with the opportunity to educate, it's not always comfortable, because you're facing the de facto many times on this, where you're being pulled over by an officer that considers himself to be in law enforcement. We know what that really means. They're protecting codes and statutes, and they're not into law enforcement. We have a huge task in front of us to reach out to them on a personal level and educate them as to what the truth is, because remember, they're slaves too. Okay, they're just a different slave. They do different things. We're all in the slave system here. Bringing them to that awareness is a good thing, and bringing them to the awareness of the law. And I yield.
If I may have the floor again real quick, this is Dave again.
Please, Dave.
I will warn everyone, there are, I think the Bible has a great metaphor for this, and that is, do not cast your pearls before swine. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. I've actually brought a number of them over. I brought one of them over and he started exposing corruption and things like that. He had 3 attempts on his wife, and still stood strong. So I have a huge amount of respect for people who stand up and do the right thing, even after 40 years of indoctrination and all that. But you're going to know who is ready and receptive and ready to learn, because they're going to take it seriously. They're going to go, you know what? I always knew something was wrong, and you're putting all the pieces together. And I say that you, being a longtime gardener and everything like that, and a martial artist and stuff, as I can tell you, first as a martial artist, you hit where you're going to have the most effect in a given set of circumstances. Same comes with shooting, but with gardening, we always plant in our most fertile soil, right? So think about it this way: you want to plant those seeds where they're going to have the most effect, right, guys? So just remember this: you only have so many breaths in this life, and you don't want to be wasting them on people you know you're never going to get to. I've spoken to the governor of Nevada on one occasion, and I know for a fact I am wasting my breath with him, okay? So I'm not going to waste it any longer. I've had so many other people who are ready and receptive and ready to learn. There are so many people out there who know that there are things that are wrong. They know it. Deep down, they know something's wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. So all you have to do is you have to give them the knowledge, because really what's happened is so many people have become a slave to fear. They're afraid of the unknown. They know that something's wrong, but they don't know what it is, so they're afraid of it. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to educate them so they're no longer afraid. When your enemy is unmasked, you're no longer afraid. And the other thing we have to do is we have to take this slavery of fear away, because, Thomas Paine in Rights of Man said in 1791 it was published, but anyhow, he said, freedom had been hunted round the globe, reason was considered as rebellion, and the slavery of fear had made men afraid to think. But such is the irresistible nature of truth that all it asks and all it commands is the liberty to keep appearing. Nice. And when you think about that, it's a really important quote. That's why it's my favorite quote. That's why I quote it so often. And I yield with that, but I'm telling you guys, you really want to find, you're going to find in your travels and stuff that there are people that are waiting for you to educate them. You just have to step up. And I know trust me, I hate saying the same thing over and over and over again. My father can testify to this. I get annoyed sometimes, but we have to do this because this is how we educate people. Okay? It's boring.
Respectfully standing up for your rights. Correct?
If I may.
I mean, if you respectfully stand up for your rights, okay, which is where we are, and the right to travel is very minimal in comparison with the lives that are being destroyed by the taking of children and so forth. The right to travel and exercising that God-given right is one of the minimal things that I think we can all do. We can learn that, and we can educate courts. We can educate officers wherever we need to. Wouldn't you agree with that, Marshall Schubert?
If I may,
Please.
this is Kevin again. A question for David. David, did you, when you went to using private plates or signs, as you call them, did you already rescind all your contracts, driver's license, registration, things like that first? I
sent a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go and then I'll go. Thank you.
Okay. The first thing I actually did was I rescinded. I sent a letter. I've got to send another one. Another letter demanding my name be removed off the voter registration. I carried a copy of my original marshal's oath because when I got involved with marshals, we were told to file it, but there was no place on there to put the different tracking numbers and all that on there. It was one of the original oaths. I had been involved for a couple of years, and that had been sent to me, and I guess it was one of the early ones that they had stopped using very early on, but it had been sent to me. I'd been asked to become a marshal, so I took the oath, and I carried that with me because my understanding was it was a way of correcting your status. But the first thing I did whenever an officer would ask me anything is, first off, I'd ask him, can anything I say, or if I produce anything that you're demanding, could it be used against me at court? And I didn't say a court of law, I just said a court, because they are kangaroo courts. They're not courts of law. But every time they would say yes, then I'd shut up. And normally they say, after 5-10 minutes, especially when it's really damn cold out and they're freezing their asses off, they normally go, "Have a nice day. I don't have time for this." And they normally would. But I had rescinded everything except my driver's license because I did have to keep it for a job I was working at the time. And what I did was I kept it in a lockbox because I had to keep it with me. When I at work, I actually did drive. I didn't drive when I was traveling to work because I didn't get paid to travel to work. And what I actually found was somewhere I got it written down. There are a number of I believe it's UCC 9 or one of those, but it's failure to disclose everything. Well, the DMV actually told me that I could not travel unless I got that, and if I didn't get that, that they would have Nevada Highway Patrol arrest me, and they were right next door. And I was probably 16 when I got my first one. So last time I checked, that's threat, duress, and coercion, because I was told if I did not get this, I would not be allowed to travel in an automobile.
Wow.
So what I did was I have a plan in place if I ever did have to do that, because it was not for disclosure. I mean, there's a number of issues with it. We've got a number of Nevada revised statutes there in Nevada that make the whole thing really easy to deal with in court. But I did not rescind that one piece because I didn't need that. But I stopped using my social security number, of course, and it's not my social security number. I should say the straw man social security number. I did do that, and then I also did have a talk with the sheriff. The sheriff used to be a friend of mine out there, and I had a talk with him, and I said, "Hey, Al, here's the deal. You know me. You know you don't want to mess with me. Just tell your deputies that too." And I had one deputy pull me over, and as soon as he realized who I was, said he was sorry for the inconvenience and to have a nice day. I got such a good reputation that a Nevada Highway Patrol, last time I got a ticket, Nevada Highway Patrol called in for, 15 minutes or whatever it is. He called in for backup. No one came. And I mean, there's like 2 substations within a couple minutes, and no one came for him. And they all basically laughed about it over the radio. So it's how you present yourself. If you have knowledge and they know that you're not gonna be a good little slave and back down and do all the things that they're used to you doing. It's just, I've been very blessed. I know there's been a lot of people who've been messed with quite a bit. There are certain circumstances that I would rescind my driver's license and things like that in. But there's, I think the getting either your oath of office or something like that, proving that you are not subject to the C or anything like that, and then also making sure that you have some type of a bill of sale with the auto proving that you that you are the lawful owner of that means of conveyance, and also keeping an extra set of those tags, or some guys call them tags, some guys call them signs. I like signs. Keep an extra pair of them because I've had them stolen. Even when I'm in parking lots, I've had them stolen. I don't know if it was corporate agents masquerading as law enforcement or code enforcement officers, as I like to call them, CEOs. But just keep extras with you. They're gonna go missing. They're gonna get stolen. They're gonna get broke. Whatever the case may be. With that, I yield. I'm sorry I went on for so long, but
Okay, if I may.
of course.
Hello?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry, I yield.
Okay. This is Tony in Oklahoma, and right now I have two separate cases where basically I was traveling and assaulted by the police, one being the city police, and I guess they brought in a sheriff, and then the second one was highway patrol, and they also brought in one of the sheriff's deputies and another person. The second assault I actually suffered, and I to this day, I mean, this was about a month ago or a few weeks ago, and I actually did suffer from. I have nerve damage now in my hands. The feeling in my hands is gone. But the thing about the second one is the officer was well aware, and ironically, he put me in the front of the vehicle or of his patrol car, and I read the computer because he left me there alone. Well, of course, I was going to see what was going on. So, ironically, I tried to give him the public servant survey, asking whether or not I was in commerce. Was I transporting goods or people for funds and things like that. Well, he let that blow up the highway. Of course, that was a littering charge. And I also tried to give him Form COL, one violation of my rights under color of law. But one of the things I did note when I was in his vehicle was that he clearly stated to the dispatch that I was sovereign.
Oh.
And yet he didn't care and was willing to violate my rights. He actually, during this particular stop, he also, I called Bruce, and Bruce Doucette, and Bruce was actually on the phone during a lot of what was going on, and I wouldn't give him anything, and I gave him the two forms. He let both those blow up the highway. Then I didn't do, I had called Bruce, and he was on the phone listening. And the officer came up and said, I'll give you one more chance. And then he walked back to his vehicle, came back, and then started to proceed to hit my window to break it in. Then he decided he wasn't going to do the side that I was sitting on in the vehicle, of course, and went around the other side and broke out the passenger side window. But ironically, in the window behind where I was sitting, I even had a notice, stating, do you want to lose your bond for life? And going through all the details, indicating that I am not the all upper caps name, that I am a lawful woman on the land in all of the basically a lot of the statements indicating that I'm not your all upper caps fiction. And these are the things that can happen to you if you choose to violate my rights. Well, that is sitting in the window right behind where I was. He busted out my window, my passenger side window. He crawled into my vehicle, took stuff out that was in my vehicle, or my automobile, sorry. I'm still trying to get the lingo down properly. And then he turned off my automobile. Then he proceeded to grab me and open my door. Mind you, I'm on the turnpike, okay, in Oklahoma. He opened my door and forced me out face first onto the pavement, cuffed me, of course, and then, that's when, he brought me back to his vehicle and arrested me and everything. And there were 3 parties there. So meanwhile, I was trying to call 911. Bruce was like, hang up and call 911 now. So I was trying to call 911, which my phone went flying when he threw me out onto the turnpike. And then I started asking for his supervisor, which he would not produce. And so I had 2 of these state patrolmen or whatever they are, highway patrol. And then they had a sheriff's deputy come out. Well, ironically, I just found out who the sheriff's deputy was. He was never named as a witness in the case. I was hauled off to jail. And this being the second one in like 2 weeks, I finally decided I wasn't giving my Social Security number, which, of course, for them to compel you to do that, it's a felony. So I refused to give. I said, I don't use that anymore. And that, that was pretty much my. They were not happy with me. And a friend of mine called because I had tried to call her to get, start the bonding process. And but they apparently, she said they were just angry because you were not you were not complying with what they wanted. I said, why should I? I wasn't doing anything wrong. I said I was assaulted. I was kidnapped. I was trespassed upon. I said I was falsely imprisoned. I said, let's get real now. I said, and the man was half my age. The majority of them were much younger than me, at least 20 years. And I'm like, how dare you? And I went before the court a couple of weeks ago, and I was really very prepared to go in, and of course everything I signed, I did not sign. I used my autograph, and I used the Four Corners Doctrine and boxed my name, utilized, UCC 1-308, UCC 1-207, and all rights reserved, non-assumpsit, everything I possibly could remember to put in there before I signed my signature. And they're like, well, what do you want us to do with this? I'm like, I really don't care what you do with it. You figure it out. And, but of course, when I was in, the pod, of course, I try to find out who has an injured party. And meanwhile, actually, I did ask, for the affidavit of truth, from the injured party under penalty of perjury. I asked for, I asked for the victim who was the injured party. I asked for everything. Like, I asked him for his bond. I asked for his oath of office. And from what I've found is the two different incidents that I've had, our city police are not bonded, and neither are our highway patrol. And I don't believe our jails are. Well, at least in the county I live in, the jail, and I don't think the sheriff is bonded because I've already gone to the court and asked for the oath of office and bonds. No one has a current oath of office. They have self-insurance through I think it's the Organization of County Commissioners or the Oklahoma Insurance Group. I said, yeah, that's real independent. But this is how they're running this whole, cabal here. And then, of course, the other arrest was in another county, and they're at least bonded, from what I understand, by Lloyd's of London, because I kept asking questions on the way to jail. And ironically, I was literally brought into jail in my, wonderful, well, the first one was my cute little black and white pajamas, the stripes, with my shackles and my waist chain. Come on now. I mean, I can't even tell you how many violations they did, constitutional violations they did. And I'm appalled. I'm appalled. But I think it makes me even more angry, the fact that the second guy was well aware that I was asserting my right to travel. And yet he was compelled to attack me. What would you do? I mean, I'm going after them, obviously, but what would you do? Mm-hmm.
I did a court of record filing because I was actually in commerce. I was using plates and stuff like that on a vehicle, and I was using my driver's license and everything. And I actually did a court of record filing because I was given a speeding ticket, which even under statute in Nevada is no bueno. And I was threatened with arrest. Oh, it was great. The one stupid SOB they brought up from Las Vegas who didn't know my name gave me a ticket. So anyhow, I go to the local city. I go there for my first hearing. They ran over me like a freight train, and I'm pretty good. My father was actually a witness to it. I had him in my pocket. You could hear the whole thing via speakerphone. And then the next time I go, they decide that there will be no recording devices in the courtroom. And then they arrest me for recording my own hearing. It was hilarious. So they arrest me, and just because I can take on these two guys doesn't mean you should. Pick your battles, people. So I get arrested, and I'm not told what I'm being arrested for. I was told prisoners have no rights to water. I was told prisoners have no rights to be comfortable. A prisoner does not have a right to have his effects that or his paperwork that contained his legal arguments and things like that in it. But I'll tell you what. Did the court of record filing for the bench trial. I got the city attorney didn't even show up because she felt it was conflict of interest. The public pretender, I named him and his boss in there, and he recused himself from the case, saying that it would be a gross conflict of interest. And the judge looked me square in the eyes and said, I don't see a conflict here. And the guy who showed up as a fill-in for the city attorney said, I don't see how there can be a conflict here because he created the conflict, not you, Your Honor. I'm like, I'm not the one who created the conflict. I wasn't the one who came around with handcuffs arresting someone for merely asserting their God-given rights, their unalienable rights. And I tore them apart in the courtroom. But what I found is that the court of record filing is the only thing that seems to help. And I've talked to local law enforcement out here, at least. And the local law enforcement basically told me if they try to do anything, whatever, because you got a lawsuit filed before that date, you can show that it's a retaliatory measure by carrying that federal case with you. And that's what I do at this point, and I'm going to be getting a summary judgment, all that stuff, but or default judgment, whatever it's called. And I've talked to Michael about that and everything. But the court of record stuff, you can go to afreecountry.com, sign up, get an account there. But that's the only thing that I found, because I'm a person of a different skill set, studying the law and codes and statutes and things like that. That really isn't my skill set. My skill set is a lot more specialized than that, and it's a lot more hands-on. And I can tell you that that I hate to tell you this, but all the people I know who get harassed the most in the right to travel movement are women. I hate to tell you that, but it's just it's the pack. It's that pack mentality of preying on what they perceive as weaker individuals. And I hate to tell you that, but that's something I've noticed also. But
they take notice when you stand up to them. okay, when you do it in the right manner. So when you are dealing with the de facto, each individual has his own story or her own story, and we don't know what that is. We don't know what their level of awareness is. We can make an educated guess that they've been trained in a certain manner, and sovereign rings a bell, or sovereign citizen certainly rings a bell, but now we laugh at that, so, they've picked up on that probably, or they are, because sovereign citizen is so oxymoronic. and so they they try and key in. Remember, it's an AI machine. That's an artificial intelligence machine that is gathering information on how things work. And so there are keywords or whatever in this that will capture um, that machine. And we're looking to reprogram that. Okay, we have to reprogram it and correct it. And so we're going through processes to correct it. The good news is there are really no mistakes. Keep your intentions pure. We are out to self-govern and do no harm to anyone. That's the universal law. So as we're moving forward, remember to keep your intentions pure, because this is a spiritual battle as well as a physical one. And we are living in a time that is historic beyond anything that we've ever seen before. And with that, I yield. And if anyone else has anything to bring forward, questions, comments,
If I
please.
the only question I have is, because I was forced in the first case to hire a bondsman, even though I had the funds on me, so I had to go through a bondsman, and I think they're trying to violate me. I just, I guess filing the court of records. What do I do? Just go into a federal courthouse and file the case there, or how do I do this?
Yeah, so you just go through I'll let someone else speak. I'm sorry.
Oh, pardon. I can only speak from what I've learned on Court of Records. Doing a Court of Records, really, there's three parts. One is challenging the jurisdiction based on your status. And remember, this was the whole thing here started about status correction, exiting Babylon. And that's what we're doing is status correction. And we're also learning how to prepare ourselves for a future. So putting yourself on the land, comprehending how admiralty and maritime law does work, and many of the things in the copyrights and patenting processes, which I know all of this is an extremely overwhelming amount of information, yet we are capable of getting it, and we will get it, and we'll get the things down that need to be comprehended and learn to stand and self-govern. That's a big part of our journey here. So I'm going to bring that back around, and with that I yield. If anyone else has anything else.
If I add to that, because when I did, everything I said, including the paperwork for the bondsman, I reserved all my rights. Utilized UCC 1-308 and all rights reserved, non-assumption, everything. I mean, I did everything when I put my autograph. So technically, I never contracted with them even for the bond. And I guess my concern is if they try to violate me, or they do violate me and they get me in jail, I'm probably not coming out. And the issue is then I don't have the resources available to me to fight my battle.
You don't have the access. Right, I get that. So you're in an emergency mode where your life is totally under threat. What you're saying?
Yeah, very much so.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I hear you. Because we've got people sitting in jail now, and the battle does go on, standing up for our rights. I wanted to get into consent and contracts more on these calls, so we can all learn about how does that work, because what I have come to learn along my path here is that we get roped into these contracts through consent, and it's implied consent. Sometimes it's just totally obvious consent. Even though we're under a total delusion of the de facto and the way that they think that things should work. But pardon me, I'm dealing with my cat. Who's
if I may.
Very persistent. Yes, please.
I don't mean to disrail your train of thought, but I think we need to touch on this filing the claim a little more, make it a little more clear. It's utterly important, in my opinion, that you get your claim filed right away in the federal district court. You cannot challenge jurisdiction in their courtroom. They're just not going to let you. You've got to get your claim filed, get that case out of their court and into a court of record. And I'd like to, if you don't mind, David, I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Who are you asking?
David. I'd like to hear David's opinion on filing the claim. I yield. I guess maybe he got off the call.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where David went there, but I would certainly myself say that that court of record is an important part of what we are doing, because remember, we're the creators, and it is our court. We're creating our own court. We are the court. It is our authority, and that's based on law, through Scalia, right? Well, as far as Supreme Court judgments go, that was given to us all along. That was always ours. So, and it was verified. That would maybe be a better way of saying it. So our rights as the living beings, that's been ruled upon. And keep those things in mind. I do. Well, if I'm ready to end this call, or if you guys want to carry on, that's fine.
I think if nobody else has any questions, we should probably go ahead and call it a night.
Yeah, I think it's been a decent call. I hope it has. I hope it's helped people along the way here. And I look forward to our next call on next Monday night, and we'll get some good things going here where we're learning. That's what this is all about. It's learning, learning together and working things through together the best that we can. Does anybody have any updates on Tom Benson or any of our people in Colorado or Oregon or Nevada? I'm sorry, Nevada. Does anybody have any updates on that? Very, very quiet. Well, I hope all is going well there. Just I've got my fingers crossed or whatever that our people that are under incredible duress are holding up okay and not contracting. I think that a lot of the correcting of your status and learning to self-govern has to do with learning about how you do not contract and you do not consent. And in some cases, well, we've studied this actually, and there used to be a 3-day rule where detainees would be held for a period of 3 days with no consent whatsoever, and then they would be released with nothing. And that seemed to change and go to more of about a 10-day detainment period with no consent, no contracting, and then they would release them. Now, there isn't a good one, a good study out there that I know of. Obama put laws into place that allowed them to detain people with no, they don't have to give anything of who they have detained, and that includes location, a phone call, food, or anything. They can get really, really nasty under the executive orders that were signed by Obama, and those things are still in action now. So they're dangerous, and they need to be taken down. Hopefully, the control that's being turned back over to the states is having an effect. We may want to consider taking those executive orders and putting them as exhibits into our documentation as we go forward. That's my opinion, anyway, and for whatever it's worth. With that, I yield.
So I bring it to the floor to end this call, if everybody feels like okay with it. We've got 6 callers left.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it.
This session is no longer being recorded.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that came here, and hope everybody learned something and took something away from this that they can use. I know that the momentum is going to start moving forward. I really appreciate you, Marshall Lee, for what you're doing and the people that you're bringing here. I think that we're all going to get where we want to be. And with that, I yield.
Thank you so much for having me and for asking me to help with this. I think it's very important, and I certainly have the passion and compassion. I do get tired and I get weary, with my own battles, but I'm a believer in we don't quit. We don't stop. We don't quit. We continue to move forward, and we know where we're going, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. So deep inside,
Yeah,
we're all
definitely.
connected. Yeah. I love you guys so much. You do keep me going. Thank you so much for this beautiful program that you created and asked me to be a great part of. Thank you.
You know what I found that really helps my motivation is to hear success stories on these calls, people who are traveling and winning court cases. I found that to be a real inspiration in my journey.
Do you know anybody that fits that description that we can bring to the call?
Well, David was a good example of that with his signs he's using as plates. MJ is a good example of that. Marshall Townsend has apparently had success in court. I'd love to hear him talk more about that. He sent me his court documents to review. So I'd love to hear his story on that. Whoever we can find to give us success stories. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we'll find. I don't know how.
Yeah, they're out there. Even Ken Dost has success stories that he's not even sharing because he's going so fast. And I know he tends to do that, and it's hard
to stop like he's on crack.
But you know what? He's not. He is totally engulfed in what he's doing, which is for the good of all.
Right.
And he actually made the decision to put himself more at risk. And I considered it. We need such good energy around him, or we need him to.
I will add about Ken real quick, and that is, one of the signs of intelligence is somebody that blinks really quick,
right.
and and somebody that talks really fast without saying a lot of ums. To me, he's very intelligent, and I think there's a disconnect trying to explain, slowing down and trying to explain his thought processes.
Right. Ken you have to think of him as kind of a fast-moving computer. He has taken in a tremendous amount of information and absorbed it, so forth and so on. And I know him, I know about his background and the things that he's endured that has, helped shape him into the man that he is, who I consider to be an incredible man, who devoted himself to the good of all. And he did. When he went to those Alaska Summit conferences and, they were all gathering together to figure out how to reverse engineer this whole thing, I know that Ken was a big part of the hub, if not the hub, of all of that. And he did. He set out to reverse engineer the process so that we could come up with the evidence to prove all of the fraud and take care of it once and for all, including the Cesta KV and all of the accounts and the fractionalization. It's pretty incredible. It's incredible information. And it does work in your favor because you are the beneficiary, you are the grantor, you are the living being on the land, and all of those words have meaning. Anybody who's gone through any status correction processes before us know what that means. And sorry, I didn't mean to ramble on there.
No problem. Are we still going to try and get Mary on?
Yes, I got an update from Mary that things were good with the new um, uh, DS11 passport form. That was all good, and that she and Vaughn were working on another thing that sounded really powerful. Um, Let me think. What did she say? It had to do with uh, just some pretty cool stuff. Okay, I don't remember, but it was cool and it sounded really good. And I think she's going to bring something to the table that's going to be very, very valuable. Mary is not really a public speaker, but she has really valuable information that she's trying to bring forward for everyone. And so, um, you know, she does not believe that the UCC or her thing with the UCC is different than maybe what came out tonight. For example, Ken Dost views the UCC as insignificant in most ways, but he's concerned about the UCC one financial statement. And Mary, as well as many other people, feel that or believe that the UCC is a backdoor, maybe, so to speak, into the de facto that connects you once again through an adhesion contract.
That's always been my worry.
Right.
About the UCC.
Right. However, not really. They are the public utility, okay, which we are the transmitting utility, and they are the, they're the public utility for international trade until another system takes foothold, okay, which is happening. And a lot of people don't know, but yes, other forms of being able to do commerce internationally, which actually is important to our existence. Okay, it really is. It's called currency, and that's a whole other thing. Hartford Van Dyke gives great insight into this, and as well as others. But Hartford Van Dyke is very good in delivering information about currency and natural currency and law, and then breaking down the currency of the fiat system, etc. Federal Reserve notes. It's a good study. It really is, because we've been raped through that transmitting utility known as the legal entity, basically. And, you've got that transmitting utility.
I certainly feel violated.
Right? It's like, I'm not sure just exactly how you haven't been raped. Right?
Schubert, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
How many people are left on the call?
Let me finish this text real quick.
Man.
Yes, go ahead. I'm gonna look while you're answering that.
Marcia Swiley.
Yeah? It's Swilly.
Yeah.
Swilly.
Yeah, okay, I messed it up. It's late. I'm tired. I'm ready to go.
I'm Littlefoot. I'm Little Feet. I'm little,
Anyway, I just did
not believe
a minute ago, and it's got. I put a few links in there for what Ken was talking about. So if you want to share it with everyone, go ahead. I hope they're the right links for what all he was was talking about.
Thank you,
Hi.
Pam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have some new documents too that we might want to add to the description, or we can talk about it. Do we want to move into the private sector, and share the information in a private mode? Because that may be the wiser.
You want to lock the call? Is that what you want me to lock the call? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying you want me to lock the call?
No, what I was saying is that we have, documents to help with a lot of the information that has been shared tonight. And,
if you send me links to the documents, I can always put them in the description box under the videos.
Right, which is what we were just discussing, was that you put some of the links into the description box, but at what point do we look at it as more private? Should we make it a private thing? Or is that important? Because remember, we're moving from the public to the private.
Well, I always say for protection, privacy, private is always better. If you announce it as public, you're liable. If you announce it as private, you can say whatever you really want to.
Right.
That's probably not a bad idea.
We have a tremendous amount of information and documentation for everything. I mean, Ken Dost has incredible documents, and he's correct in where he is and what he's doing, and it does apply to what everybody else may be pursuing as well. I see it as being huge dot connecting stuff myself, but that's where I am.
Personally, I've never.
There are many others out there.
Yeah. Personally, I've never heard of Ken, so I'm going to have to reserve judgment on that.
Well,
I heard him a while back.
Yeah.
He was actually on some other shows.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
No,
yeah.
I'm curious about that. I've been following him for a couple of years as far as, I've known him personally online. So not personally, online. We've spoken with each other one-on-one several times, and I've just found him to be very intelligent in many, many, many areas along the way over the last couple of years. So, I think that at the same time, you've got incredible people out there all over the place, and kind of bringing everybody under one umbrella as much as possible is probably a good idea, to get people connected with one another on the legal name stuff. Get to know what the founding documents were. Get to know what the language, learn this stuff. It's hard. It's a devotion, but it's also necessary to free our families, our grandchildren, our children, our grandchildren, and the future generations that are to come and will be here for those future generations. Life and death is...
What do you guys think? I'm sorry. What do you think you guys think about Robert Deason? Do you think he would be somebody to bring in on the call and talk?
Robert who?
Deason.
And forgive me, I'm not familiar with who that is. If you could share, that'd be great. There's several people that I think would be really good.
But he's a local guy here that hasn't renewed his driver's his plate, I should say. He says he hasn't had a driver's license in several years. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong, but we met at a local restaurant, and he talked to me and sent me some stuff to read. And he hasn't renewed his plates or his license in several years. And he's not the kind of guy that wants to jump out there and start, ninja kicking all these cops. He wants to keep a low profile, but he doesn't mind talking to people.
I think we have to keep a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we have to keep it transparent, and in that transparency, we're showing how we're not the things that we're presumed to be, which is dead, lost at sea, enemies of the state, enemy combatants, incompetent, blah, 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 blah. That list kind of does go on. Actually, I hate to say it. I was trying to make a, list of like 10 things, and I'm not sure. I think that there's many things that we're considering. So those are the obvious ones that we fight against or that we stand up against because we've gone back through history and broken down the acts and comprehended who we are, and we're ready to self-govern. So, with that, we need a lot of perspectives, and we've got someone suggested in the last call that maybe we bring in Carl Lentz, and I think Carl Lentz is an excellent choice. Anybody that is familiar with him knows that he's impressive, very impressive.
Carl Lentz, for sure.
Yeah.
Carl Lentz, for sure.
I would really like to, hunt him down, and get him to come on to our call and set the record straight on status correction or contracts or, you know what I mean? It has to flow with what we're doing. And what we're doing is not a small vein. There are huge numbers of people that want this information. We have to get it out there for as many who want it. We need to get it out there so that the people can get a hold of it and while it's available. A lot of censorship going on, a lot of concern around censorship, right? Which is why we've got different applications and things that we're trying, and we're doing different things, and many people are keeping an eye on.
Now that you bring that up, how come you're not on Zello yet?
I am on there.
Have you joined the group?
Well, I thought Marshall Schubert, I thought he might have put me into a group.
I might have. Let me check.
What's your handle on Zello?
Let's see.
Is it Little Deer?
Yeah. One Little Deer.
Oh. There you are. Okay.
Oh, yep, there you are. See you.
Okay. Yeah, just I'm new to that, but I'm new to all this, so what the hell.
Are you up on what's going on with Carl?
No.
Are you talking about Copley?
Was that Copley? I thought that was Carl. Captain Carl.
That was.
Okay. So that was Copley that put out the alert.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
About the children?
Anyway, yes, so you know what's going on. All right.
Yeah, I got that. I'm not happy.
No.
Don't even ask. Okay? Because I'm not happy. And where are they? I want to go there and say, 72 hours,
really?
get them back. get them back in 72 hours. Just get them back. Because after 72 hours, it gets a lot
I
harder.
don't mean to jump off here. It's almost 1 o'clock, and I've got to go to work tomorrow, so I got to go. All right.
Okay.
But you guys have a good night. And y'all can
Yeah,
talk as long as you want to.
If you hear anything tomorrow, give me an update.
Okay.
Please.
And I'll look as soon as I get on the internet. I'll look into the conference call question you had for me and see what I can do.
Okay. All right. You guys have a great night.
Okay, you
You
too.
too.
Sleep well.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, we're dwindling down here.
Yeah.
No, where kids have been taken, we need to stand up now, on this. And whatever that is, if it's a collective action, then we need to do a collective action of some kind. If not through Michael Hamilton, then someone who can write something up or do something to
Yeah. Well,
get
my
kids
first
back.
recommendation to him when he put out the alert was to call Hamilton, because I figured he would be able to give him the quickest advice. I was standing on top of a ladder on the second floor, so it was off the cuff for me. The next thing he could probably do, I think he's down in Costello County, which is just west of Alamosa, but I'm not too sure about that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm in that kind of area, I think. So I don't think we're that far from each other. And the thing is that we're in the Four Corners kind of area. Am I right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I am. I don't
yeah,
know.
Alamosa is technically it's the fringe of the Front Range, and then where I think he said he was is right in the mountains, probably an hour west of Alamosa, maybe, and then Pagosa would be the next big town heading west, which is where Keno is.
Yeah, I'm about 50 miles from Keno, so yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, I'm currently.
That's actually more my neck of the woods because everything here is sparse. Okay, we're scattered, which is one of the reasons why it works so well. Plus, where I am, we're in the Four Corners area, which means that there's 4 states, and when you cross state lines, they get all the jurisdiction stuff really, really, messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they do that all the time on purpose because they've learned to engineer that to their benefit.
Oh, yeah.
So crossing state lines for them is a convenient, so to speak. There's 4 states to choose from. They use 2 primarily, Colorado and New Mexico. However, I know that they're also using the other 2 states in the Four Corners area.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing that kind of thing all over the place because of how they perceive jurisdiction or, etc. It's
Right.
a huge thing, and the only way that you can sever the jurisdiction is to do what we're doing as far as I'm concerned, in identifying who you are. And I agree with Ken, putting yourself back on the land, not being lost at sea and considered dead or incompetent or, whatever. The number of things that they can use to say that you can't self-govern because you're not capable of managing whatever it is. Whether that's your entire wealth, or whatever. We have to self-govern. And so whatever it is that you want to take on and do, So, in that regard, I was getting what Ken was saying, 1 foot on an island and 1 foot on the land, or 1 foot, I don't know what he was saying, but, something to that effect, where you're kind of trying to do one or the other. There's the white card or the black card, what have you. We're
That's the same as a red pill, green pill?
It could be. That's the thing. You need to examine that and determine for yourself. Now, personally, myself, I kind of took on a liking, so to speak, of the white stone process. And
I've never heard of that.
Well, it's an interesting study, which has brought me here, where I am right now tonight. But the Whitestone process is based on historical things, including in Revelations of the Bible. I think it's 12:14.
Interesting.
I'm sorry?
I said interesting. Yeah. Revelation is my favorite book.
Yeah, it is. So it's where you've got the hidden manna and the hidden name that is given by the king, but your identity is shielded from all. And you have the same authority as the king, because the king gives that to you. But yeah, so it's the hidden manna, and it's a beautiful, comprehension of things too. It does have to do with going into the enemy's land, and having to live amongst the enemy, and without that hidden manna or hidden name, which it brings a whole new light to everything in this day and age, because of brings a whole new light, in this day and age.
Right. So I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense, actually. Because you start putting together the multiple sources of information. And now, see, I grew up learning the Bible, and that was my tool, or that was my roadmap, or what have you. That was how I functioned through life. That was my gauge. It was where I turned to, to get answers, right? and I studied it diligently, night and day sometimes, year after year. Excuse me. And, that was I defended it too, all the way. And then I had to open my mind and let other information come into play so that I could dissect things that I wasn't getting answers for, okay, before. I needed to comprehend what was going on, because things weren't making sense.
Right.
Things seemed to be backwards, as a matter of fact, okay, and seemed to be very odd, okay, or not odd, but backwards for sure. Odd, yeah, but you know what I mean? There's too much that was going awry. It was like, no, there's no balance here, and that is not natural. And if it's not natural, then what is going on? Well, we live in an artificial world. If, truth be known, it's been artificially manipulated, or it's been manipulated to be artificial over
satanically manipulated. Yeah.
Yeah,
and satanically manipulated.
Yeah, so that can get into some interesting conversations, and realities that we look at, and we examine, well, what is going on, and how is it happening, and who's doing it, and how do we stop it, more importantly, right? And
Right.
that's kind of where we are now. It's like, well,
Yep.
we already know, what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. And we've pretty much covered that, I think. The exposure for me is over. I don't need to see anymore. I know what happened. I know what's happening. And it's such a tragedy. The magnitude of the tragedy is humongous, and it's so huge and so obvious. It is the elephant in the room that so many have heard about. Yeah, it's like, oh no, it's right there in front of your eyes, my eyes, and we're living in a time where willful ignorance is becoming less of an option.
But it seems to be mainstream still.
True.
Hey, do you know? Yeah. Do you know how many marshals there are in Colorado?
No, I do not. At this time. And you know what? I'm okay with that. How about you?
Well, I know of you and I know of Crossley, and that's it so far. I was told that there is a chief marshal for Colorado, but nobody can tell me who it is.
Yeah, I think information at this point is probably will be given on an as need to know basis, really.
Yeah.
Right now things are they're good. Things are good. I think they're good overall. But we all need to remain vigilant. We're all here for a reason. We chose to come here. We were made for this, actually. While on one hand, as humans, we were actually made to live free of all threat and, in a land of abundance. And that's coming. I think that is true. But we all, right now, have to remain vigilant.
Yes, we do. Did you get to see the intro to the video I put up? From last Monday's call?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I went through it, and it's beautiful. I wanted to tell you, you have done such a wonderful job. And Pam started a little thing to send out to people to invite them. So, what did we have for callers tonight? How many people?
Well, when I didn't get on the call till about 7:30, and when I logged in, there was 14 callers.
Well,
so I don't know the total number. That would be a question for Schubert. He's trying to figure out how to make me a moderator so there'll be more than one person handling the board.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we need another one. I would say Greg Johnson does a good job of that kind of thing too. I think Greg Johnson is a good choice for moderator, maybe.
Yeah.
He's done it for others, and he can get a little long-winded. But as the hostess, I'll deal with that. I'll get better, okay, at my deal with her, with the moderator position. I'm not, not experienced at it, but I'll get there. I was an entertainer, though, for 20 years.
Really? What'd you do?
Guitar player, lead singer, backup singer.
Nice.
I did a lot of things, recordings, private parties, weddings, gigs, left and right. You know.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Songwriting.
Well, it's almost 11 o'clock. I am going to have to bail. I got to get to bed.
All right. Hey, great call tonight. I think it was really good. And, you know, certainly one that people can break into chunks, right?
Yeah.
What Ken says, because he goes through a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to go through it probably 2 or 3 times at least.
Yeah, it's heavy. It really is, you know, and I know that's a lot of work. But we have to consider that Ken is putting himself at great risk to bring all this information out, in my opinion. He knows he is, okay? He's already being named on other stuff, so the bar attorneys are after him, okay?
We'll have to get an update from him in a couple of weeks on his progress.
Yep. We need to follow his progress. He's putting action into the works, and he's put the evidence out for the public. So that's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Good night. Thank you so much once again for everything.
Thank you. And I guess I'll catch you tomorrow night on the call.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I need to get some updates. We need to get some updates for the call on all of our political prisoners, all of them. And I can't get in touch with Lee. I don't have her phone number.
We're probably not going to get any updates until Wednesday night's call because they go to court on the 3rd, which will be Wednesday. Right? Isn't today the 1st?
Yeah.
So we probably won't hear anything till Wednesday night.
Well, I would hope that somebody has heard from someone. I'm concerned about Byfield. He's one of our top, people, in my opinion, when it comes to comprehension of common law and everything. And
then there's Benson and Nevada.
Yeah. Where are they? I want to know where they are.
Yeah.
What about their spouses or somebody? Because they've been in touch. Bruce Doucette was in touch and coming onto the calls, actually, and now all of a sudden that has stopped. Why did it stop? Was it money? Was it de facto? Was it what was it, right? Gag order, what was it? No action.
Gag order would not surprise me. Gag order would not surprise me. That seems to be their fallback tool lately.
We have our people under such extreme duress in these conditions, that you can't hold them responsible for contracting under these conditions. You just can't, in my opinion. That would be unlawful, illegal, and everything else. It'd be such a crime. It's such a crime. It is such a crime.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it would be such a crime, but it is a crime, okay? It's what is being committed now. Why are they holding our people? I want to know. For real, because I'm not buying into that crap that they put out on their bullshit. There's no organized enterprise. What did they call it? An enterprise? That was what they called it, right? They're charging them with something about what was it? The enterprise?
I don't remember.
Enterprise. Well, we need to be concerned about that because, if we're part of the de jure, well, that's a direct attack on the de jure. And they did do a direct attack on the de jure, as a matter of fact, in their documents. They're so blatant.
Absolutely.
How dare you do an attack on the de jure? The de jure are the people. Regardless of whether or not they're under contract with the de facto, unknowingly,
right.
By deception, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're still the de jure. That's the beauty of common law.
Fraud vitiates all contracts.
Huh?
Fraud vitiates all contracts.
Oh, we have to straighten this stuff out, dude.
Yeah. All right. I got to go to bed.
Well, good night. And thank you once again.
You're welcome. Thank you, too, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Bye.